He's going to be late, okay. Everybody good on this side? All right, Matt, you good? Okay, all righty. Let's have a roll call. Mr. Burdette?
Here.
Mr. Deloach?
Here.
Mr. Loper?
Here.
And Mr. Kiefer?
Here.
And Wesley Corbett, I am here. We have one commissioner, Mr. Forrest Floyd, that will be late. And so with that, we'll go ahead and call this meeting of a planning session together for our public work session on growth and how we're going to move forward and what we're doing. I want to welcome everybody here tonight. Let's begin, it's not on the agenda, but let's begin with an invocation and prayer, because in this community, we always want to have the guidance of our Lord as we move forward in these crucial plannings. So, Father, we thank you so much for this evening. We thank you for all these friends of ours in this county that we get to live in and celebrate every day the life with our families and with our children and our friends. We thank you for the growth that's coming, but we pray for your wisdom and discernment and the challenges to help us meet those in a way that bless those who we serve, glorify you, and in all we do brings honor to the kingdom. So we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We'll do the pledge.
It's not on here, but we ought to do that. Let's go ahead and rise and have the pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So with having sought our Lord's help and made our pledge to our country, we're going to move into our items here. We welcome the public tonight. Comments shall pertain, if it would, to the matter that we're discussing tonight, which is the growth of our county, getting your input on growth and what you see, things maybe we haven't seen that we want to address, because we're really trying to put together a plan that is good for the land use management of our county, but also meeting those services. We have a lot of challenges with that, with transportation and public safety and school. And we've been spending a lot of time discussing this. We spent a lot of time on having master plans drawn up for each of these areas that we're starting to go through. But one of the aspects is we want to do maybe even more than this just one time, getting the input of our public. So when we have some conversation out, we'll probably start with a couple little presentations, letting you know what we're doing, what's happening from our administrative side. And then we'll see if the commissioners want to add to that some things that they're concerned about or excited about or whatever. And then we want to hear from you, and we want to take our time. So we got 2 hours scheduled for this. If we need to go longer, we can, but we want to make sure we have plenty of time to everyone to have an opportunity to give comment or discussion tonight. So the discussion is going to be related to management growth and development within the county. So that's going to be the topic, and we'll ask you to keep it on that topic. And if we need another public hearing for another reason later, we can do that. So with that brief introduction, Tim is our county manager, and he is helping us guide us through being the top 3% of the fastest growing counties in the country. Wrap your mind around that, not in the state of Georgia, but the top 3% of the fastest growing counties in the country. So we have a lot of challenges. So with that in mind, I'm going to lateral off to Tim. I think he's got a little presentation. He's going to help us kind of get on a common page, and then we'll have some comments. Okay?
Thank you. And I wanted to start off, kind of give a snapshot, a little higher altitude snapshot of where the county is standing right now, some of the numbers related to growth, and some of the actions that this board has taken over the last 2 years or so to properly plan and manage it. But it all starts off and all focuses around the county's mission statement. And I just wanted to read that for the folks who don't know it. It's to provide through the highest integrity a county government which will assure our citizens a safe and healthy environment to encourage and promote a high quality of life. With that, to give you an idea of the services that your county government provides, and every time we get an additional citizen, these are the additional services we have to provide for them, is EMS, 911, emergency preparedness, Parks and Rec. We share that responsibility with Rincon. Roads and infrastructure and maintenance, water and sewer service. We have our own county correctional facility. It's a prison. an animal shelter. We have our development services department, which encompasses all of a lot of the folks that you hear here. Brad Clements is the head of that. It's our planning, zoning, codes enforcement, permitting, and inspections. And then in addition to that, county government that under the Board of Commissioners provides services for the Sheriff's Office, which also has a jail which is separate from the correctional facility. The assessor, tax commission, court system, the justice, coroner, and voter registrations and elections. And here we are on growth-wise, and if you can kind of see, we started back 10 years ago just because we're just getting the results of our decennial census. 10 years ago, we were roughly 52,700 residents here in Effingham County. The most recent update, which was in March, the year after the census, was 66,741. That's 27% growth or 15,000 residents in just approximately 10 years. And with that, we wanted to bring up an interesting point, is that the digest or the cumulative value of the property that is assessed property taxes in the county doesn't grow at the same rate necessarily as population. As a matter of fact, for many years, and you can see them in since 2009, it's grown by 24%. But since these values are mostly based on real estate values, when the Great Recession hit, we had a growing population. I'm going to go back one. You can see it didn't matter if there was a recession or not, we were continuing to grow. We had massive decline in revenues, even though the population continued to grow. And the board did not, because we were in a recession, they did not respond by raising millage rates. And so therefore, we were having to cut back on things, mostly deferred maintenance and that sort of items during those low years. And we're still digging ourselves out of a little bit of a hole when it comes to getting our infrastructure back up into par, but we are getting there, and we will get to that shortly. In that same period of time, the digest has grown by 24%. That doesn't mean our revenues have grown by 24%, because as we did last year, when we roll back taxes as assessments go up. This is an interesting chart where what we're really trying to show here is where the density in the county is. And so we did a distribution of 3-mile radius between residential address points. This can show you, where obviously we don't have an even distribution of population in the county. Most of it's closer to 95 and the Chatham County border. And we also have a water and sewer department here. Currently, we're providing water service to 3,500 customers and sewer services to 2,800 customers, roughly. To give you an idea of permit growth, last year we had a little bit of a down year in 2021 because of a lot of the builders cut back a little bit because they didn't know how to react to COVID. But this year, we are actually at a record level of new permits at 680. And this gets close to the same amount that we had in 2009, which has the current record. We maintain 104 linear miles of pipe, 85 linear miles of sewer. It's quite a complex system that we update and maintain in that department. but we get our water from Savannah. Actually, Savannah gets its water from Effingham County, and then treats it and then sells it back to us. I wasn't here when that deal was made, but we can get up to about 5.5 million gallons a day from the city of Savannah. We do have one wastewater treatment facility which provides which could provide 1 million gallons a day, but because of our limitations on how we deal with our effluent, our wastewater out of our treated wastewater, we are limited to about half that until we resolve our issues and increase our capacity. We maintain 952 linear miles of multi-lane road. And of course, you know that we have an extensive rail network in the county, which is part of the reason why we have such a strong logistics hub here. And this is just to kind of give you an idea of when you compare us to the amount of commuters. It goes in the region, it goes Chatham County, then Effingham County, and then add everyone else, you can't even come up to the amount of commuters that use Effingham County roadway system. Total workforce in the county is about 31,000. And this is a breakdown of really what our land uses are. You tend to think that we're, a highly dense residential county, but still a vast majority of the county, even in the lower portions of the county, are still zoned as agricultural. Of the total, what is the total anyway? But you can see the spread out there. There's 10 times as much agricultural property as there are residential or industrial. The purple are the industrial, and the residential is a kind of a darker green, which you can't really see as well. So what have we been doing about this? Well, I can tell you over the last 2 years, this board has tasked the staff with coming up with the necessary plans and updating the necessary plans needed to address our needs here associated with growth. We adopted a new transportation infrastructure plan last year. We are currently with T-Splost implementing portions of it. And we're also looking at, and that addresses not just maintenance, but also capacity issues. So when I say the difference is it's not just repaving, but it's also reconfiguring intersections. It's also widening roads where they're needed, adding roads in the case of Effingham Parkway as well. But what we're also looking at doing, and we had a great presentation on it on Tuesday night, is getting a written assessment of the condition of our entire road network so we can make data-driven decisions when it comes to the maintenance needs or the repaving needs of those roads. Water and sewer, we're currently in the process of creating a master plan for water and sewer. That's not just our current infrastructure, but that's also where growth is projected and what we need and how we're going to deliver it to the folks. Stormwater utility master plan, one of the issues that we hear quite often, second probably only to roads, is issues related to flooding. And we did not have a stormwater master plan. We got a grant to fund most of it from the state. So we'll be awarding that master plan contract within the next couple of months. Facility condition and utilization master plan. We took a look at all of our facilities, the condition that they're in, how we can utilize them efficiently. We have to do that in this environment simply because it's so expensive to build new. And that was approved on Tuesday night. Park facility master plan was awarded 2 months ago. Solid waste master plan is completed. We're just waiting for the approval. And all of that leads into the last two items, which are the land use and zoning code review and modernization and the comp plan update. Many of you have been to those meetings. I see a bunch of familiar faces here where the county is much different than it was, obviously, 10, 20 years ago when the code was written. So we're updating that code based on feedback that we get from the public and stakeholder groups and the board's input to update the code. And then once we do that, it all ties into updating the comprehensive plan. Because the comprehensive plan basically takes all those master plans into consideration into one document to provide the current condition and the direction of the county. So the comp plan process we're doing with the same company that is doing the code update, and we will be having multiple public sessions on this, as well as presentations with the board on this to get as much public input as we can. Matter of fact, even though this isn't part of that process, the feedback that we get from this meeting will be provided to the consultant as well, so we can include it. But that is just generally where we are in the process of planning and implementing, as well as kind of give you a broad view of where we are with growth. And from there, I will hand it off back to our chairman.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. So I want to kind of just add a couple little comments so that we kind of, first of all, just kind of get a base of where we are and how we got to where we are. You know, in this rapidly growing county, you saw earlier the revenues had dropped off, but the population kept going. We'll make sure everybody remembers why that happened. In 2008 and 9, we had the housing crash. All the real estate, commercial and residential went down. At that time, in 2009, there was what was called a Carter-Burns exemption, which is an exemption. I enjoy the benefit of that. Some of you who've been here forever enjoy that too. And what that says is whatever your assessed value was in 2009, it can't go up more than, I think it's a COLA, 3% of the market value, whichever is less. And so for many years there, it wasn't going up. So we enjoyed having housing assessments a lot less than what we probably should have. But it's good. It's good for our community, particularly our elderly community, that it keeps their taxes in check. So if you've been here 20, 30 years before 2009, you have a more steady, small increased growth in your tax bill because of that Carter-Burns. So excellent thing that it did. But the problem is the digest dropped off about 30%, and it didn't allow us to recapture that. We could only recapture to that 1% per year, you know, or the COLA, whichever is higher. So we weren't able to recapture that. Some of the board members, people were on the board, I think, during that time, and to their credit, they made a decision, and I'm just kind of reiterating what Tim said, how we have gotten ourselves behind the 8 ball with infrastructure in a lot of ways. They made a decision not to increase the taxes to keep all those services you saw at hand, and they chose to do like many of us have done in our personal budgets, live within our means. So they made some cuts, and they put off some maintenance and some things to do so that we have not had a millage increase. Any tax increase has come from either increased values, the digest goes up, but even that we try to roll back so we keep the millage about where it was the year before, so we don't actually have a larger millage. So those are the reasons why, you know, the costs continued on, new ones were created, but we didn't increase the property taxes. Of course, during that time, sales tax fell off and so forth. So we had this revenue crunch, so we're behind the 8 ball now, so this relatively new board is on here, and we're looking at all the future, the rapid growth that we got, and we've got to see how to meet it. That's where we want your help and your input. You can throw a rock at us tonight, that's okay, we can handle it, but because we want to hear what we need to hear, not what you think we want to hear. We can make better decisions when we hear what we're supposed to hear. So we'll have a good discussion tonight, but these are some of the challenges we want to talk about tonight. As we have these services of public safety, you got fire, you got the hospital. We just helped recently stay a viable hospital, which saved my mother-in-law, saved my wife when she was burned. I think it's crucial that we save these institutions and help them, and they're going to come back as soon as COVID's done. They're already bouncing back. but we've been supportive of that. EMS, improving that resource. Once again, our fire, our sheriff. What's the sheriff? He's not here tonight, is he? But I think about every 1,500 people, you need to have another deputy. So as we have this rapid growth, what does that mean? More staff, because we have a safe community. That's why people want to live here. So we want to continue to keep that same safe atmosphere. I've had conversations with the sheriff and the board of education. What can we do to make sure we don't have the things that happen in other schools around the country? Do we need to put some deputies there? We've even helped support additional costs out of our general fund budget to help the school to make sure they have the security that's there. That may even need to be beefed up more. But these are all the challenges of that public safety to keep those services, to keep the quality of life that we want. So we got to try to meet those increasing costs. And then the transportation, thanks to you and helping us through T-SPLOS, we've got, about $40 million in transportation expenses or more?
45 billion roughly.
$45 million that's going to take place in the hopefully next 3 years. We chose to go out and get the bond so we can get the money, get the contracts going, finish the parkway, finish the safeties, the roundabouts. So you're going to see a lot of work there. Yeah, then the quality growth is the key issue. So I know you're going to have some comments about this tonight. Help us with it. But everybody, all my kids have left the county and gone to the big city of Atlanta or somewhere else to go to work. We all have expressed the desire can we have opportunities to have more reason for our kids in the future not have to leave the area. You saw even Bryan County, the others, they don't even have the industry and the things that we need to keep our kids. So we need to find how to have balance of manufacturing versus commercial, because residential, even though all our taxes are burdened to us, they don't pay the bills. It takes about a $400,000 house to just pay for a child in school, one child in school. And our houses don't average $400,000 in Effingham County. So every time a residence moves in, we have more service costs and it doesn't pay the bills. So we have to seek, how can we get commercial in here? How can we get industry? And that relates to, I'm going to share it with you here. Recently, we had a chance to get a Gallo wines. It was an opportunity, but we didn't have the capacity in our wastewater treatment facility. So we've got to get that where it needs to be. That would have been some wonderful jobs for some folks, probably a very clean business in our area. And so if we're going to not put the burden on us as taxpayers, we got to have a good combination of commercial that pays sales taxes that we get benefits of, because industry doesn't pay sales tax. They're the wholesaler. They're shipping it somewhere, and somebody else is getting the sales tax off that. You follow that? So even though it may be good jobs, we were talking with our IDA about, let's watch the pilots that we do. People want to be here. Pilots are payments in lieu of taxes that are reduction to these folks. They encourage them to come into our area. We as a board recognize we may need to be careful about giving tax breaks to these warehousing or industries so that they can pay their fair share of this. Many times they don't pay their fair share to 10 or 15 years down the line. Unfortunately, we need it yesterday, not 10 or 15 years down the line. So people always say, when are we going to get better restaurants? You know, we have some great restaurants now you see coming in the Rincon area, but they want the Applebee's and the Longhorns and whatever. And when I was in Rincon, every time I talked to a restaurant folks, they said, you don't have the rooftops. So there's your challenge for us. How do we get the rooftops that we need in this county to have the types of venues that you want to enjoy, recreational and, you know, theaters or whatever you want, and the food restaurants you want to see. You don't have to go to Pooler every time. And it's always interesting, all the Effingham County tags that are in Pooler when you go out to eat. So these are all the things we're looking at. And then infrastructure-wise, with the water and sewer, we got some real challenges there. We've got a plan that we're trying to put together to get to our 1 million gallons a day for our plant. But that one industry needed 800,000 gallons a day, 400 to start with. So we don't have the facility for that. So we're looking at going ahead, and as part of our modeling, they're looking at that so they can begin to tell us what kind of system do we need to design. That's going to be about $10 to $12 million per 1 million gallon system. We probably need at least 2 million gallon system. And once again, these are the challenges. We don't want to push out for our taxpayers. We want to see how can we do this through commercial growth, industry growth. You kind of get a sense of the challenge so that we can provide the service, and the builders can continue to build the homes they want to build and have quality water and sewer. So these are some of the issues that we are facing, that we're trying to get our heads around. I talked to Yancey recently and talking about the school. They're looking to have, the second grade, 20 to 23 children per class. They want around 25 to 28 in the elementary above that, and no more than 30 in the high school. I'd like to have less. Right now, we're hitting those numbers. But if you looked at the permits we showed you a while ago, about almost 700 permits that we did last year, we're at a growth boom right now. And that's just in the unincorporated area. This is not in the county-wide, because we don't have the records for the city, okay? If there's anybody here for the city tonight, they might speak to this. But in our unincorporated area, if we have another 700, which I think we will, because we're in a growth boom now, that's about over 30, well, it'd be about 6,500 to 7,000 residents. There are probably going to be 2 cars in each one for each adult, and there's probably a teenager in some of those. How are we going to put 4,500, that's what's going to be about 4,500 more cars on already busy highways in the next 3 to 4 years? And we can't stop the growth, but we got to look at how can we control it and get the quality of growth we want to see in our county. And I'm talking a lot, but I want to set the table so you kind of bring up to speed of some of our many hours of discussion. And then I'll say the board wants to share anything, then we're going to let you help us out with this. But that's one reason under density housing and multifamily housing, we've already in our planning required more off-street parking, recreational facilities, recreational property areas, green space, things that cost the builder more, because I don't know that we can legally tell a builder what kind of house you can build, but we can give a standard of quality for the area that we want that would be more in keeping with Effingham. So if their cost goes up exponentially, they're probably not going to build the smaller house that just a quick sale. They want to build something that residents will want to own and live in for a while. So we're trying to beef up the quality and character of these types of constructions. So, once again, as I was talking to Yancey, if you don't allow some people might be against multifamily housing, but here's the issue. You do raise the cost. If 4 families want to move into Effingham, they're going to move to Effingham. Now, if they all move into a 1 acre or half acre tract with a house, $250, $300 on that house, on the digest, that's probably going to only give you $100,000 of assessed value. You only pay taxes on assessed value, okay? So that's not going to pay the bills, and you're going to have all this increased cost. 2 things multifamily does, so I don't think we want to say no to multifamily as a commission or as a community, but we want to do it right. If you get 4 homes, and like my daughter, she lives in a neighborhood where they can just about shake hands. Her neighbor's about where Forest is right there. Well, they have like a $500,000 house, and it's beautiful, and they got amenities, and people are dying to get in there. I mean, they can't not sell them. You get that kind of house on 4 acres, you get 4 of those done right. You have over $1 million worth of investment. Now you can pay the bills. Does that make sense? So there is a sense that you want to get a balance of multifamily, residential single, the AR1 in the area. At the same time, you see the large amount of agricultural land we've got. This board recognizes we need our farmers. We need those guys out and protect their forestry land. We don't want developers come in here and just buy that land up and put a bunch of houses on it when they need it for farming. So how do we do that? That's tough because we can't control the market there. So I just want to share some of the challenges that this board has as we're looking at this growth, and that's why we've invited you tonight. We want to get the community input, and I'll just hush there. I could go on and on with the challenges or opportunities of the opportunities that face us as a county. But you got a great board here that's really working hard for you that I think is going to listen tonight and go back and do some more research. But I'm going to hush and see if there's any board member wants to add to some of the things as we set the table, and then we're going to have an open mic and let you address any one of the items that we've talked about or something we hadn't talked about. Okay? Anybody want to speak?
I'd like to hear what they got to say.
We are. I just want to make sure the board makes sure they give a direction.
Yeah, I'll say something. Mr. Chairman, I'll echo what you said earlier. Thank you to everyone who voted for T-Splost. I thought our chamber did a good job of lining up public forums to have discussions on T-Splost to try to help educate the community and give everyone an opportunity to ask questions on that. But then, as we all know, COVID came in. We could not have those public forums. I know myself, I was really extremely worried that T-Splost would not pass because of that. I thought a lot of people might just vote it down, but obviously a lot of folks realize that we have transportation issues in Effingham County. So again, thank you for the support on T-Splost, and it is much needed, as a lot of you know. Just want to touch on the master plans. Water and sewer is not a whole lot of fun to talk about, but when you're talking about growth, it's extremely important. These plans do cost money, and I know my opinion's biased since I voted on them, but I'm glad to see this board supported that, because I don't feel that we're throwing darts on a dartboard. I feel that we've got some real data to make some decisions with your taxpayer dollars. And I think it'll be extremely important for us going forward in the future. So just wanted to say that, and thank you all for being here.
Anyone else before we open up to our constituents?
I'll speak to this as well, and again, I'll echo what Commissioner Deloach said. Without T-Splost, we really would be in a lot bigger problems than we have right now. And with T-Splost, you guys voted that in. It's the voice of the people, and we're responding with it. We've got projects going everywhere. And thankfully, we do that because we can use that tool and that mechanism of T-Splost to get infrastructure in place in the places that we need it the most. So, and without that, it would have been very, very difficult. We've been in a lot worse situation than what we are. And he's right. We're about data. You know, it's one thing to say traffic's terrible. I hate coming in and out of the county. It's this, it's that. I started receiving a lot of emails and data and pictures, and I see it every day myself. That's one of the reasons why we live in our districts. We get to experience everything you guys get to experience. If not, we shouldn't be there. And I could see the traffic getting heavier and heavier. I could see accidents starting to happen where I'd never seen them in 20 years of being here. It's getting to the point where people can't get out of their driveways. Now it's a safety issue rather than just a hindrance or an aggravation of traffic. So that's when, I had the idea of moratorium. Everybody hates the idea of moratorium. That may not be the tool we need to use. My plan would be to slow the growth in these pressure points where we're having so many problems, where the danger is, where we're having issues at. Colic-Hamley is used so heavily every day now because people are trying to avoid Hodgeville and 30. Hodgeville and 30 is a major pressure point. We get so much backup from there. It's become an issue. People are, even if you're, I don't know how many people are here with District 2, but if you travel that road, once you reach Scuffletown, you can already see the traffic backing up. So what do? You take Scuffletown, and then that gets backed up, and then people can't get out of the drives over there, and it's just a safety issue. And that's when now people are beginning to take Colic-Hamley out to 30 to avoid it, and we're just bottlenecked. And then I started asking for data. So this is bad. How much worse is it going to get? In our district alone, there's 1,700 lots available for building. This goes beyond what we have permitted. It's big. We got a big problem now, and it's coming. So what I would like us to do, and I think this board recognizes we got an issue. How to handle it is the hard part. The last thing I want to do is do something that's going to upset a developer or scare away a business, or what do we do? How do we do that, and in what way do we do it what's friendly? But slow the growth in these pressure point areas. We don't have to slow it everywhere else. I see Ms. D here tonight. I was thinking about that earlier, how she's done a fantastic job here in Springfield. And when you do things like that, and you kind of think out of the box, that drives growth in other areas. It makes it more pleasant to want to live here and do business here and other things like that. So we got this little area in D2, affectionately called as District 2, that you saw on the screen earlier. We just got all these people because that's the majority area that we are really a bedroom community where we're feeding employment to Chatham County, and that's a majority of what we got. I was in traffic the other day. I've been riding some different ways, just seeing what's going on. It started slowing down on Colic-Hamley about where the school is, which we've got improvements coming there to increase safety. And I finally get up to make my turn. I don't know how long it took forever. Everybody turned left. I got on the road to go right and toward the school, and there was nobody there. It's just, it's gotten that bad, and I can imagine 1,700 more. So, you know, first stage, do something to slow some growth, move it somewhere else, do something without hurting people. Do it in a way that's developer friendly. I mean, we don't have to cut the real estate market to death. There's other places to build. Whatever we do, whatever mechanism we choose to do, and that's us, everybody here in this room, we got to think about that developer. That's their livelihood. People in real estate, that's their livelihood. Let's not do it in a way where we limit something for a year and we're not out of the woods in a year. Then that developer has went maybe to the bank, done their due diligence, invested money. Let's do it in a way where they're not going to get hurt because we're not out of the woods yet. What I mean out of the woods is, can we see the light at the end of the tunnel with Effingham Parkway? Can we see the light at the end of the tunnel with the roundabout at 30 in Hodgeville? And that was a punch in the stomach a few weeks ago when we heard 30 in Hodgeville was 3 years away, and we have no control over that. And Commissioner Deloach has put in a lot of his time trying to figure out ways around that and speaking with other officials and state officials, and we're trying, but that's going to be a big hindrance for us. So we could go forth, do roundabouts at these key areas, and we're still stuck at 30 in Hodgeville. You know, so that's going to be a hard one to navigate. But whatever we do, however we handle it, you know, third phase would be to monitor this, reestablish as soon as possible. You know, when we start seeing some light, then tell them, hey, things are starting to move. Effingham Parkway's 10 months out. Oh, we can see it. Because there's always a lag between building homes and putting out rooftops. I'll be the first one to stand up and say, let's put it back on, because I believe in growth. We need the growth in key areas, but we want to do it the right way. Love to see some more trees left, not just strategically planted once in a while. Some greenery, some different things that would help our county. And can we do it? Is it that much of a burden? Look at Bluffton, South Carolina. They do it very well. You can go into their area and you kind of don't even know you're in a commercial district until you get in there. And, oh yeah, there's a matter of fact, I went last weekend to a go-kart track indoors, and it just, you know, you just go beyond the trees and you're there. Like, wow, it's things come out of nowhere. They've done it strategically and figured out a way to do that without a major cost burden on the developer. We need the developers. So whatever we do, and we need our real estate people, whatever we do, it's got to work for everybody. So I'm hoping we'll come together. We'll have some data here. It's not something we're going to just hate all this. Yeah, we already get that. We already know you're in trouble. But, you know, I'd like to hear a little bit of the data again as far as, you know, last Thursday, 15 minutes to get out of my driveway, you know, that kind of thing. That's real life for you every day or every other day. Or I'm seeing it, but, you know, the board needs to see some of this too. I appreciate everybody being here tonight.
Yeah. Anyone else on the board?
I'm going to listen.
All right. We're going to open it up. Maybe you want to respond to something we've shared, or you just have a concern that we need to know about related to growth. The mic's there. If you would come to the mic so everyone can hear, state your name, anything else you want to share about yourself, where you live. Maybe if you want to do that, don't have to, what you do. But any concerns or any comments or input on what we've shared, or just whatever else you have related to growth. Mic is open. The first brave soul comes forward. That's all. We're taking notes.
Now, I appreciate everybody pulling this together, and I appreciate Roger's efforts of late here. And I agree. You know, everybody.
For us?
I'm sorry, Tim Hutchings. I actually live Blue Jay, just across Emerald Plantation. My wife's a teacher at South Effingham Elementary. Both my girls went through there. Both of them are at South Effingham Middle now. I now work in Pooler, and I used to live in Jamestown for 12 years. So I've experienced basically all of the South Effingham issues from a long time ago to now, and I get to hear about the school issues on a daily basis. You know, and it's not that we don't need to grow, to Roger's point. It's just that we have to be more strategic about it. It's not that the county couldn't handle the 2,000 houses, but you can't put 2,000 in one small area. It's just too much of a strain on that particular infrastructure. So I think from a residential standpoint, I think the next step is, okay, where can we support it? And right now, it's not only, we know we've got the water and sewer issue in the south end of the county. We know we've got the traffic issue in the south end of the county, and we've got school issues. So most of our 2 middle schools are closed for school choice, which means they're basically just about at their tipping point. We've already got stuff coming online. So South Effingham Middle, closed. Effingham County Middle, closed. Ebenezer's open. You look at the other elementary schools on that side of the county. Marlowe's closed. South Effingham's closed. Guyton Elementary's closed. Well, if you kind of overlay the map, it's really that South Effingham Middle School District. Anything in that is going to check basically 3 boxes as far as issues we've got. Traffic, schools, and the water and sewer. So you kind of need to look at all the different maps, the 3 issues we have, and see where we can support it. And really, right now, it's the Springfield Water Sewer District, bordering with the Rincon Water Sewer District, that area there. That's an area where we can support some of this stuff right now, because we're always going to have traffic issues, but if you start to traffic further in the county, it can filter about a lot of more different directions than if you're already starting at the edge. There's only so many ways out. So we can address the traffic. We can support it with the schools. There's no elementary schools in that area that are at capacity. Effingham County Middle School is not at capacity, so we've got the room over there. What I would like to see as far as that as well, I would like to see the county support Rincon, Springfield, and Guyton, wherever is needed to help them grow. If that's annexation and supporting it, then we need to do that, because we need to grow from our city centers outward. That's where, obviously, the multifamily makes sense in Rincon. It makes sense in areas. The high density can make sense in Rincon, in Springfield, in Guyton. That'll allow you to have the high density and allow these single-family homes on 1 acre or whatever out in the rural areas, allow these nicer neighborhoods on half-acre lots out in the D1 and the D2 area, so we can still maintain that aesthetic and the character of the county while still allowing the growth. And then we're also not putting a strain on all that infrastructure at once in that south end of the county. So there's a way we can do it, and I know there's developers in the audience, and that's all they want to hear. If you tell them we can't support it here, fine, just tell us where to go and what you want us to do, and we can do that, because they do that elsewhere. So there's no reason from a strain on resources, a lot size minimum of a 1/4 acre would solve a lot of problems. We're having to add a lot of this external parking and green space and stuff because the yards are so small. There's nowhere to park the cars in the driveway. You put a little bit larger lot, now you got the cars out of the road. You've got a yard big enough for the kids to play in, so you don't necessarily have to have all of the recreation and such. So it solves a lot of problems. And the easy one is the trees, like Roger mentioned. We already have an ordinance that they have to maintain trees, but there's kind of a loophole to where they're getting a subdivision approved and then somebody's approving a timber permit to clear cut the property. Well, that step should be gone. It should be automatically, when you get a subdivision approved, you've got a timber permit approved for the trees that the current ordinance allows you to take. And you just drive around the county. It's not that developers building bad houses or anything, but you can't help but look at a neighborhood side by side, one of the new neighborhoods versus one of the older Effingham neighborhoods from the early mid-2000s. Basically same houses, but this one left trees, and this one clear cut. It's a huge difference. Go through some older neighborhood, the ones on a little larger lots where they left trees. I love using Jamestown as an example. That was an entry-level neighborhood back in 03, 04, $130,000 houses. Those houses are selling for over $160 a foot right now. That neighborhood is still as maintained today with no HOA as it was 15 years ago. When you've got that larger lot, you've got the trees, you just naturally are going to take more pride in your property. And again, those things don't necessarily cost developers money. If you start requiring a lower density, less houses per acre, it's going to push the price of the land back down. So it's not like the developers are going to have to overpay for that land, because the high density is what's driving the prices of the land up. If you can build that many more houses per acre, obviously that land's worth a lot more. So there's ways to do it to where you're not going to hurt the developers. Just redirect them, let them know in advance so they haven't spent the money on engineering. Don't make promises about, yeah, we can go R6 because we can connect it to sewer that's a 1/4 mile away, because now the county's on the hook to do that when we don't know when we can do that. So just be clear up front with them. Give them a plan to where we can support. There's not going to be a lot of opposition, and let them go do that. The other thing that's going to do, if we start pushing that development to that side, you mentioned commercial. Obviously, we need commercial. Unfortunately, Rincon's almost landlocked now because of the industrial all around it. There's not a lot of place for it to go, but that's really where we need it. But the problem is When a business comes in and does the radius studies and starts expanding the circle outward, they go where all the rooftops are and the growth is, and they catch Pooler before they catch Rincon, because all the growth has been concentrated to that south end of the county. You start moving the growth to the other side of Rincon, to the other side of the county. Now when they start doing the radius circles out of Rincon, they start capturing enough rooftops before they hit Pooler. Now it makes sense. Doesn't make any sense to a developer to build in Rincon when they can catch Pooler, because then they can build in Pooler, get all the Effingham people and all the Chatham County people. So that's the issue we're seeing there. The other thing I would like to see on the commercial development side, I mean, we reward industry to come and bring jobs in, and we're seeing a lot of warehousing coming in, 25 to 30 jobs per million square feet with a huge impact to the county. Why don't we incentivize small businesses who are bringing good jobs to the county? We have a lot of small businesses in the county who employ more than 25 or 30 people at higher wages than some of these industries that are coming in. So why don't we incentivize the small businesses who are bringing those good jobs into the county? Particularly, you talk about land, I'll use the commercial property in front of Belmont Glen that was recently, tried to get turned to apartments. That's a property that is zoned commercial, paying about $1,200 a year in property taxes. It's nothing for the county if we get some commercial business in there that's valuable, to give them a tax abatement for a handful of years. What's the county out? $4,800 over 4 years? What could that mean to that commercial business? $50,000? Doesn't cost the county really anything in the grand scheme of things, but it's an incentive to bring them there. So that's the kind of stuff I think I'd like us to look at, get creative to try to bring some stuff there. Again, shifting the growth is going to be huge for trying to attract some of the restaurants and entertainment type businesses we want. So that's key. Industrial development, you mentioned it already. I think everybody understands warehouses are more of a drain than they are a gain, and we really need to, throw everything we got at the manufacturers and try to get them here. Obviously, if we got infrastructure issues, we can't do a whole lot there, but we do need to do what we can to not necessarily limit the warehouses, but limit the placement of the warehouses. They need to be as close to the edge of the county as possible, so there is, as little impact to the county roads and the people of the county. If we could push all that out towards the I-16, where it goes, that's, we just can't, we have to keep them out of the interior of the county. Because it doesn't matter if we get tax revenue for them if they're tearing up our roads. Because by the time we have to redo the roads, it's costing as much as we've collected in tax revenue from them. So it really ends up being a wash anyway. And then in the meantime, the citizens have to deal with all the truck traffic. So we need to do what we can to minimize the warehouses. I've talked to a handful of people, a couple of former IDA members, and all of them think that based on how the property is being marketed, the previous public comments, that if we were willing to go to battle, we could get out of the Omnitrax agreement and redo that. There's multiple people, multiple IDA members, there's attorneys who have stated that there's things that Omnitrax hasn't done and extensions that have been given. There's enough there, and the fact that they're not marketing it how they've publicly stated they're marketing it, there's enough there to where if we're willing to fight, we can probably get out of it. That would be huge, because now we can grow Rincon again. That would open us up for another commercial corridor. We could do more residential there. We can throw some manufacturers in there. We can throw some schools in there. That's a battle, and that's a what if, but that would be nice, and I think the citizens would be happy if we were fighting that battle. If we lose, we lose, but at least we fought the battle. So that would be great to see. And the last thing would be recreation. There really isn't any. You talk about people staying here. Well, there's nothing to do. If you don't play on a travel ball team, there's no county resources for you. We've got tons of ball fields, but that's really about it. It'd be nice if, we've got some neighborhoods that have some pools, but, they've got one pool for 1,000 people. You can't really use it. It'd be nice if we incorporated some kind of water park, small water park, could be fee-based even, kind of think Splash in the Borough light for the community. That would be great. We've got the site out there already at the Clarence Morgan Park. The other thing that would be nice is, I know there's been conversation around it, but the Atlas Sand Site, being that's going to be a raw water reservoir, we can use it for recreation. Let's open that up for recreation once all that's settled out and we get the environmental issues resolved. That's a very cheap resource for us to leverage to give the people that want to stay here something to do while they're here. So, and then to kind of echo Roger's concern on the timing of this, we're really, best case scenario, we're 3 years out from any resolution in the south end of the county. A school is 3 years out after you buy the land in today's market. You know, the water was supposed to be looped at Blue Jay and Marlowe a year ago. That's still out a little ways. We can't put our finger on exactly when this stuff's gonna happen. You know, if we don't think it's gonna be at least 3 years, then we're crazy. So I think we need to start thinking an immediate plan and then a long-term 3 years out plan is what we really need to be thinking about.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. By the way, I want to thank you for the research that you put in on this stuff. It's been really good. Appreciate it.
I do want to mention, we're not a party of the, to the Omnitrax agreement, which I know you know that, but
Yeah, I'll say it quickly. I know we've had several people look at that, and they've told us there's no out. We've tried everything we can do from our standpoint, because we're not a part of that contract. So when I was working in Rankin, I wanted to find a way to get rid of that as well.
Yeah, that's been a
It's
task.
been beat up, and
And now they already have encompassed that area.
yeah,
But it's-
so,
And we've already been talking about the Atlas Lake
Yeah, we have
as a
been talking about that.
recreation facility, but we're trying to work through this other water issue.
well, and there's a couple of things. We're doing the cleanup. Remember, the owner that owned it had messed it up, and we've gotten proven from Georgia EPD to clean it up, and so it's gonna be, there's no seepage of the stuff that he put into the land that he buried into the lake. We've had that tested, but we've still gotta clean it up before we can use it. And if we did do it as a reservoir, something I didn't mention earlier, we don't have but one water source on the south end. Water is not really an issue for us on the south end because we got the Savannah water. Got unlimited water pretty much. The only reason we didn't finish Loop B, we finished Loop A of the loop. That's a commitment I made when I came on the board, is I was gonna loop that water so we wouldn't throw $300,000 a year on the ground to keep the water quality. And we've got the first line done. The second line went, 2.5 times the cost with the cost at one time, and then we changed some things on it because we had to delay it. Just to give you an example, my son works for Ferguson National. He said, Dad, if you wait another year, pipe's gonna drop, but right now you're gonna pay an arm and a leg. So if we can save $1 million, it was worth it on a $2 million, $3 million project. So, but in that time, we've looked at adding some things, lines and doing some things different. We tried to use it wisely. Anyway, we're pretty close, I think, to letting that contract and getting that looped probably in the next 12 months.
Starting construction?
I mean, getting it completed maybe the next 12 to 18 months.
No, there's a good amount of, I think there's still a good amount of right-of-way that we don't have on that. I mean, it'll get started within that time period, but I'm not sure if it'll get finished in that time period.
But one more thing for the kids to hear, and I'll let you go ahead and share. We have the booster station that has already been engineered, is being put in, so that's gonna take care of the pressure issues on that end, so that's gonna be a huge help. And even that one line is helping water quality.
I want to make one other comment too. Talking about encouraging building elsewhere. I mean, most people work in Chatham County. They're looking for homes in the south end, so I don't think it's going to depress anybody's value. I think if anything, if we restrict any growth, it's going to cause the values of those homes to go up when they're going to be assessed even higher. But, you know, people, they may want to move up further up in the county. That's fine. I'm not against any type of moratorium as long as, well, I'll just leave it at that.
And to your comment, Tim, I want to hear this guy, and we'll come back to you, is that we are working with the cities. We have not opposed annexation where it's in their water and sewer and it's contiguous. What we don't want is islands where you don't know if you're in the city or out of the city. So we're trying to make them, just do it in a contiguous way. So the city limits are not, you're in the city, you're out of the city, in the city, out of the city. It's confusing, it's complicated in a lot of ways, but we haven't resisted when they run water down Fort Howard. We let them annex Grandview and that area out there. And I've even talked to the mayor and manager that there. If you want to move towards Springfield, that's a great place for you to go because you've got water and sewer. It would take us millions of dollars to get over that water and sewer, so we don't want to waste money. So we are working on that. Sir, I'm sorry. Go ahead and share with us what you'd like for us to hear tonight.
Hi, my name is John Schwartzkopf. I live on Ebenezer Road in Mr. Kiefer's district. We've lived there about a year and a half. I've lived and worked all over the country, seen uncontrolled growth in other parts of the country, seen what it does to nice areas. That's why I'm not living there anymore. And hate seeing it happen here. But, you know, the part I can't figure out, well, number one is, who thought it was a good idea to build a gigantic warehouse complex across the road from an elementary school on McCall? I mean, that was before I moved here, but you know, it just doesn't seem like a real bright move. McCall's a residential road. I drove truck for 25 plus years, and, you know, if I was having to go up and down McCall accessing that place, I'd lose my mind. And
Can I address that real quick for you? I know I was in Rankin managing it. We tried to see if we could work to acquire that property so we could expand, as you said, the commercial area, and it wasn't available. The industrial authority
but
owns
Mike-
that. We don't control it. We don't have,
my question is, you guys in the planning board have to sign off on this, correct? I mean,
Not
those-
entirely.
no, if it's zoned industrial and it's a permitted use, which is before this board was on the board, and that land was a long time ago, taken by the IDA through, I think, a
It's
condemnation.
a condemnation
Condemnation,
process.
and once it's zoned previously by industrial, it has permitted uses, so we can't control that. And we can try to encourage the IDA not to give the pilots, you know, that they give perhaps, but, you know, that's something we can't control. I wish we could, but we can't. The industrial areas that have already been zoned, we've got to make lemonade out of that lemon, that may be given to us. So one thing we've talked about is not having any more industrial property, you know, really restricting when it comes to us wanting more industrial land for warehousing, whatever.
Yeah,
Let's
no.
limit it to what we have. We have sufficient. So that's a discussion we've had that I think the board is buying into as well. So,
and I totally agree with what Tim said. You know, if you're gonna have warehouses, which are a huge money pit for the county, you know, for the few jobs they provide, it's ridiculous. But if you're gonna have them, put them like, you know, on the, either towards I-16 or towards Port Wentworth,
I agree.
not, you know, like that one that's going in behind Chimney Road. You know, that's prime residential area there that's gonna be warehouses. And it boggles my mind that, you know, and there again, Tim made a great point. Encourage small business, you know, that's where the money is, and they pay better wages, they pay more in taxes. I don't want to see this area go like what I moved away from. I mean, you know, we can move again. We're retired. It's, you know, we bought a nice horse property, but we can sell it and go somewhere else. But I don't want to do that. I moved here for a reason.
Well, how do you get the small business to move in Effingham County? I mean, they go by rooftops. I mean, Rankin's got plenty of them, but up above Rankin, Springfield's getting a few small ones. But they got to have rooftops. I mean, you can't make them come in here.
Well, then how can we get all these fast food places, but we can't get anything else? You know, there's apparently enough rooftops for McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and Jersey Mike's and everybody else.
I think we are getting closer. We are definitely getting closer
Get one
to,
there at a new station there on the end of 275 and 21. I think they have a Jersey and a,
But we don't go out and solicit businesses either. I mean, that's not our job. The people, any of these rezoning issues, any of these things, they come to us. We don't go looking for warehouses or any of that.
Places I've lived in the past.
Where were you living?
Washington State, Western Washington, St. George, Utah, Missouri, North Dakota. I'm originally from Washington State, born and raised there, and lived there for 50 years. But they had, it was a depressed area. It was a timber economy that went away after the spotted owl. So it was extremely depressed. You had thousands of good paying jobs that evaporated. Mills shut down, loggers went away. And so the county started an economic development council, and a bunch of the movers and shakers, county government, city governments, they all put their heads together. And that was one thing that they actively did, was try to recruit smaller businesses. They weren't trying to recruit,
And there are
you know,
ways of doing that.
Microsoft or
Actually,
Boeing.
There's actually, if you mind interjecting to help this, there are ways to do that. One of the things we've done, not on this board, but I've done with other folks that I've worked with, there is actually consultants that you can hire on if we want to, because I heard that about the incentive basis, because I thought about that myself. And they would actually go to these shows where the retailers go, and they'd have a booth to introduce their county to them, looking for businesses that they want. I've always thought if we had a good sports authority and a couple other good stores, you could have a whole shopping experience without going to Pooler. You know, we just about 2 or 3 those type boxes to have a full retail experience. But so I think it's something that we can look at as a board.
We can encourage our chamber. I mean, do they do that type of?
Chamber does that. They I don't know what they're doing in that, but it might be something we could do, is work close with them to see how they're communicating. Because there's these shows around the world you can go to, in Texas and New Orleans, wherever, and retailers come, like we go to our ICCG conference, and they'll have booths of counties and cities and different places saying, come to our city. These are the rooftops we have. This is
Yeah.
our
You've
coffee
got
bag.
to
This
sell
is our-"
yourself. I mean, you know,
True. I think we
it's, when you
start
go to,
that.
when you go to a car lot, the salesman doesn't sit in the office and, you know, go, hey, how's it going?
I think we start that by creating the incentives up front. Get those out there, because if you don't have any incentives to work with, it's kind of hard to sell anybody on anything. And we take away all incentives for warehousing. Warehousing's coming no matter what. It's a proximity thing for us. So we shouldn't have any incentives for warehousing whatsoever.
Well, and just so you know,
Reverse that.
that warehousing on Chimney Road has no incentives. It's a
Yeah,
private.
exactly.
It's a
And there's
private.
a
So
lot
that's
of
the
them
one
don't,
that is
but
not gonna be a burden on our community, because they're gonna pay all their taxes,
Yeah.
you know? Compared to the one like you just mentioned over on, in the industrial park, we don't control it. We can't.
I wish we had more control there. All right, believe me.
I
There's
wish,
nobody
I wish you did too.
Yeah.
sitting here
And there-
that
and there's-
doesn't
there's-
wish that came down a little differently than what.
We've got a
lot
couple
differently.
industrial parks that, there's one that's north of Rincon that pushes it a little bit further probably than we would all want to, but it's private, and so it'll be fully taxed. And so there are some that's gonna really generate some revenues for us that will help us. But the industrial lands that are government-owned don't help us on that. Not early, later on they will. But we
Well,
need-
it seems kind of mind-boggling that this, you know, growth is coming as a big shock to you guys now. You know, you've all been on the board for a while. You've been approving these subdivisions, the warehouses. You know, you can see it coming down the road. And your quote to WTOC yesterday is, you know, basically, we're surprised, now we need help. Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying that, you know,
Well, I appreciate
should be
the
able
constructive
to.
criticism, but it's not gonna solve anything tonight. We're here to solve problems. We're not here to beat people up.
No, I'm not
So,
trying to beat
yeah,
up.
well, that's
I'm
what
just
you're
trying
doing.
to
I
figure out
appreciate it.
why
So, you know,
several years ago.
I'm here to solve some problems. We know what's happening.
But let
We're
me show
not
you something where,
oblivious.
where yours might come from. He's only been on the board like a year and a half.
I've been here 3 years now.
3 years now? Been that long? Okay, well, 3 years, but still, that's pretty new to the challenges. I've been on the board, I'm in my second term, 5 years. So what we did, as Mr. Deloach said earlier, we're getting the plans together, so we're not just throwing darts at a board, something we didn't have,
Or at people.
huh?
Or at people.
Or people. So that's what we're trying to do. And so we've got this information, and now we've been showing it to the public, we're getting your input on this. So even though it may not be a surprise to me being involved with Rincon and in government auditing almost all my life, some of these guys, it's not the biggest surprise. Some it's gonna be more of a surprise because they just lived in a neighborhood, saw some growth, but didn't know. I bet most of you didn't know all the challenges I'll share with you tonight that we have, you know? So it's a learning process. So I wouldn't say it's a complete surprise, but we're trying to get out ahead of it now. So,
All right, well, I appreciate your time, and, you know, Mr. Burdette, I'm not trying to pick on you. I just happened to see your name in that.
Well, one thing I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, is I don't agree with the last statement. I mean, we're not surprised by the growth, or I'm not. The biggest issue we have most of the time is we talk about a lot of good plans, but it's funding. Everybody thinks the county has $200 million in a pot, that every time we have a road issue, we just go pluck money out of that pot, and that's not.
Going to be rental.
You told me the one spot over there in Guyton too, right?
17, we're I sold that property that was right across from the animal hospital, 100 acres. That whole subdivision is being built for a national chain now, which was going to be single-family homes and residence for our community,
Is that for rental?
for rental. So the deal that's been done with the developer is build the houses, then we're gonna buy it all out and make it into rental. I'm sure y'all understand, without me spending a lot of time up here, taking up everybody else's time too, is how important this might be to our county.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've spoken to a couple people about, you know, and this is just my opinion, but if I own 20 consecutive homes in one neighborhood under one ownership, why can I not be considered multifamily? That's the only thing that I've been able to figure out might give us a chance or an edge against this is our zoning. Because single-family, singly deeded properties would traditionally go to individuals. But this is going to one individual. And it's not even somebody from our area. This is a national chain. It's gonna take their revenues and spend them somewhere else. I just think it's something that wouldn't, and I wanna make sure I say that out loud to everybody here, that wouldn't be something you would know when the permits come across. But I do think maybe our zoning ordinances need to think about this and think about why that might happen to us, because we are a very appealing county for so many reasons. And the demographics that you put up about the cost of those families, transient families that are not gonna invest in our community, you know, there's all kinds of studies that talk about the difference between home ownership and rental ownership and how they maintain their properties and the impact that they have
The
on a
piece I know
community.
you're talking about there, that's in the city limits of Guyton, I believe, that,
That was just, they were just annexed into Guyton.
There's
it is part of
2,000
Guyton.
right now that are bought out.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to give you guys some more information
some more
out, you know,
information.
outside of
Yeah,
the
and I
meeting,
wonder if
but
that's, I'm thinking we have probably, I'm just guessing, in our county right now on the books. What was I estimating the other day? You remember, Jamie? We had a meeting. I was estimating we had probably 2,700, 3,000 total permits outstanding. I'm wondering how many of those are in the city, how many, I appreciate this information. I made a note to research and how to control, because I had not heard that. So that's great. Thank you for letting us know
But
that.
this will be all new homes, new construction.
this is all brand new construction.
These are those permits
And
we
there's a
talked
couple
about.
different impacts with that. You know, you have obviously the difference between home ownership and rental ownership, but also because of the fact that, you know, your resale values are out of control right now. And the only way to balance out resale and existing homes is to bring in new construction and give people another option so that you can help to level that playing field.
But the
You
only
know
way,
what I'm
only way
talking
that
about, I'm
works,
sure.
in my mind, real estate wise, and this helps us get out ahead of this, if it's something we need to get ahead of, is that you don't usually put the quality construction in something you're doing a mass construction of, because $1,200, $1,500 is probably the max you're gonna rent it for. So you gotta make sure your cost is very.
It's
that's
very
why-
low, but they're
that's why
looking
it
at that
can-
long-term gain is what they're looking at, you know, those long-term revenues. And they've targeted us for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know, we're the bedroom community to Savannah and to the local areas where the jobs are.
You can't get rentals in Effingham County hardly now.
No, you can't, and you never have been able to, which is part of the reason why we are the sweet little county that we are, Galloway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, they're not available. So the price is going up, and
Yeah,
That's good
and now it's
information.
becoming unattainable.
your name was Dima?
D. Moncrief,
Demon?
Moncrief.
Oh, Moncrief. Oh,
And I would like to say, just as a side note, I sat on Downtown Development Authority with City of Springfield for 6 years before I went on city council. That is a really good way to encourage the cities to have a basis for attracting small business. Everybody thinks that Springfield just, woo, wow, it looks great right now. But, you know, we've been working at it for 10 years, so just
Yeah,
wanted
it
to say that.
shows.
You did.
Thank you for your time.
Dee, one question.
Yes.
Do you have any ideas of what we could do about something like this?
I think we have to control it with zoning. I think that you have to recognize that if you have one owner with, so, you know, because I'm not trying to hurt the small owner that
Yeah, I mean-
has a couple rentals sprinkled throughout the county, but if you have consecutive homes deeded to one individual, to me, that is the same as a multifamily, just because they're on separate pieces of land.
That Jasper Village,
Yeah,
I
and
think
the
is
concept
similar.
is not necessarily bad if you know and it's planned. Yeah, like Jasper Village
Yeah,
is
that's a
nice.
different ordeal, but
But
she's
that was,
talking about-
you know, above board, and it was discussed, and
This sounds like it's behind
And
the
put in
scenes.
the area
acquiring
that we felt
lots
like would
and-
not
and
damage
building-
the properties of the county.
zoned.
Yeah. Well, I think especially the subdivisions where you have home ownership right now, and now they have lost that to whole back end to a rental company. I mean,
you
that
can't
would be
really-
pretty bad.
Even if you limit a per person or per company amount, then you just create another LLC and get around that. You know, it's easy to hide that, so we need some other mechanism of,
Yeah, we're gonna need to do some
I
research.
think we're
on that.
smart enough to think it through, you know,
thing we could
and
do.
at least have something that would make it have to be something that becomes aware to you, that you can't just sell it out privately, maybe, I don't know. But thank you for your time.
They have legal counsel for it to help.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Lee's taking his notes over there, I hope, so he can advise us.
Good evening, gentlemen.
uh,
Gotta move it down again. I'm Susie Thurman. Y'all have spoke with me before. I want to talk about the water and the sewer. That's not something that affects us. We live in Whitehall. We have a private well with the subdivision that's next to us, and then we have a septic system. I'm curious as to how that is that something that can continue to be required in some of these new builds that would offset some of these problems that we're having with the water supply and the sewer
So
supply?
you're asking, can we require them to hook up to our systems?
No, can you require them not to create their own systems? I have my own system. Y'all don't. We have,
Use wells.
Oh,
yeah, we're on a well, we're on a shared well within our two subdivisions, and we pay another company, they take care of the well, and then we all have our own septics in our,
I can tell you that most of the subdivisions, that I have my own well in my place too, and my brother and I share the same well, but we live on 40 acres. Most subdivisions don't want that, because eventually the septic tanks fail and it's very expensive. In the long run,
it's not as expensive as I thought it was gonna be. Because we moved from a city. I mean, we really moved from we moved from St. Louis, Missouri, we moved from a suburb, we were landlocked. They incorporated in 1985.
Yeah.
We knew, I mean, there was no, and so I mean, I understand.
There's a lot of things with that. It also is environmental issues too as you grow.
Okay.
If you have all these wells, then obviously people get their chemical houses for their pools. If chemicals go down the well, they mess up the aquifer and so forth. It does happen. I mean, that's one of the concerns. That's why you gotta be so many feet away. But even if you're so many feet away from your septic systems, if you store your chemicals. So it's more environmentally friendly. Overall, developers and homeowners in the long run like the water and sewer systems. And if you're gonna grow and have healthy growth, I think you gotta have it. Plus, we already have the water and sewer lines for the most part. What we don't have is enough users, and that's why it costs us so much. So we
Okay.
don't need to miss the opportunities to have people tie into a system that's already there.
But you're saying that it's not, that, there are places that are having problems already because the water and sewer is not up to where it needs to be.
No, that's not what I'm saying. The sewer, we don't have the land application for our 1 million gallons per day system that we built.
Okay.
So that's a huge cost. If you look at our audit, you'll find that our wastewater treatment facility runs something, it's about $1.5 million to operate it. We have about 200,000 in revenues that come into the actual plant. Then we have some sewer that we get as well, but we lose money on that. So we've got the plant, and that's why I told our engineers, we have got to get our capacity up to our plant for our
Okay.
residential. That helps our growth continue, and then it makes it operationally, takes care of itself, that cost, because a lot of systems there. Many years ago, before I was on the board, many of these guys were on the board that was there put in like $40 million of water and sewer around this county. I don't think that particular board maybe had done it in the wisest way, because you really should kind of go out to where the growth is instead of running it like a spider, you know? But that's what it is. So we're trying to connect these systems, bring people online for the quality growth that we want, and
Okay.
it helps pay for the system in the long run. Water, we've had pressure as we grow, but you have water quality because it's not looped.
Okay.
So we're looping it for water quality, and the pump's gonna take care of the pressure, and we got all the water. We just need an alternative water source. Because right now, if the water from Savannah went down, we wouldn't have any water in the south end of the county. So that's another challenge we're looking at. That's why I'm talking about the reservoir. And with the reservoir, we're looking at, if we did that, we wouldn't make it a motorized reservoir. We want to make it a recreational site as well. If you don't do that, we've checked into those kind of things. We checked into a lot of things that we haven't even talked about tonight. But if you don't put motorized boats in there, you could have trolling motors and a bass fishing and fix you a beach if we get it cleaned up and have a really nice recreational site and still use it for a reservoir. We don't know if we're going to do that, but we're doing some testing now about drawdowns to see if that 238 acre small lake, large pond, you want to call it, could it supply an alternative water source so that if something happened to the water in Savannah, people in the south end would not be able to, would be able to put fires out, would be able to drink, flush toilets, and so forth. Right now, we only have one water source, so yeah, it puts us in a jam. And I think that's why the governor may help us with that a little bit, because
Okay. And then I wanted to, and this is, okay, so I'm sorry, but it's just the honest truth. Rankin has a reputation for being very, very difficult to work with. And this is not like around here. This is like, I spoke with somebody in North Carolina who wanted to, this is a national chain, who wanted to come here and said, well, you know, we kind of asked around and we might go to Pooler, but Rankin is too much to work with. And so,
well, I hear you, but I want to be careful about the hearsay of those things, because I was in Rankin for a while, and
Right.
I actually talked to some of these restaurant folks, and it wasn't the issue of being difficult. It was flat out, you don't have the.
well, this was recent. This has been in the past 18 months.
Yeah.
So that's all. I think it's something that, you know, everybody's talking about. This is what they want, and they need to be aware that there are other things coming. It's not, I know that y'all keep saying it's just number of roofs and everything, but there are other things that are being.
Well, there are, yeah. We've been working on our own development services to try to be more friendly. We have to say no enough times. We want to be able to say yes if we can, and explain why we have to say no, and make people feel like we really want them to be here.
Right,
you know?
right.
And that's the key, right?
And then I want to address you, Mr. Deloche. I did vote for T-SPLOST. And even though we couldn't do all the workshops because of COVID, before, you know, we voted, we did vote for it. But we voted based on the map that was out there. That map now is nowhere to be found, anywhere. I wish I'd printed it out, because I can't find it online. So if y'all have it someplace, please let me know where I'd like to
Good.
know.
We can get information. I
And
don't think-
unfortunately, I know many of you know, you've watched me through my recovery from COVID. You know, I'm off the oxygen now. When y'all were doing the stuff that really affected our neighborhood, unfortunately, I was in the hospital, and I was speaking for my neighborhood, and they didn't send anybody else out in my place. So we live in Whitehall, right at Colwick-Helmy and Hodgeville, and in, not this past Tuesday, but in the meeting previous, the Board of Commissioners meeting previously, you had talked about the roundabout at Ebenezer because, you know, we said no, or y'all said no, excuse me, to the Dollar General. And you said something that kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, threw me off a little bit. Because you specifically said that traffic circles damage residential property values and should be surrounded by commercial businesses. And so you had said that that is gonna pretty much become commercial on the long term because nobody's gonna build there. So I don't want you to put a traffic circle 10 feet from my
No,
house.
But you're not, you really kind of misunderstand what I'm saying. That's a traffic circle, and it's a large traffic circle too, by the way.
Mine is going to have to be a large traffic circle because you're giving Omnitrax, no, you're giving, they went to, you rezoned, and so Zone 4 is now being built up before Zone 1. And so you're gonna give those trucks access on Hodgeville, and so you are going to have to build
No,
large
no,
enough.
that's not part of our trucking route.
No, and that's not what
Hodgeville.
he said either. He didn't say it damaged his property values. He said it wasn't suitable to build on there because it was such a small place on a roundabout.
No one would want to build a resident
Nobody said anything about damaging
on that traffic
property
circle
values.
that's there. Now, the traffic circle we're talking about on Hodgeville is not the same thing you're seeing there. And I've asked specifically of our engineers and our staff, there's less land issues, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're taking less land through the traffic circle, but creating a safer environment for traffic to move. There'll be no commercial, there's no.
You're
place
not creating a better environment for our
We're
neighborhood.
creating a safer environment.
For the citizens
For
of
the
the
citizens.
county.
Yeah.
travel
Exactly.
through
And
that
it
intersection.
takes less property
Favorable
from,
just because
but it-
you're there, but it's a safer environment for everybody traveling through there,
it's-
much safer.
and it takes less property than it would to do the decel XL lane. Because that's what I was looking for them to do. And I said, well, why are we doing traffic circles? Well, it's less property and it's gonna create better traffic flow. So it's not gonna be, if you go to some of these smaller areas where you have these traffic circles that I've gone through around this country, my wife and I just did a trip all the way up to Lake Superior and back. In these residential areas, they have these traffic circles that allows the traffic to safely move, and there are houses there. Now, what you've got out at Ebenezer is a large traffic circle that is on a truck route on Augusta Road there, okay? And so, I can see that no one's gonna buy that property, in my mind. They may wanna put a house there, I don't know. But I just think, I'm not sure how they're gonna put houses on that traffic circle, you know? So I don't know what it's gonna be, I have no clue, but there'll be some value there. But it's not the same thing as Colic Helmy and Hodgeville. That's gonna be a whole different, look. And like, once again, less property taken from the resident, the people who live there, and it will be a lot safer.
And your entrance will not change. You won't have an entrance off the traffic circle. Your entrance will still be on Collegiale.
Yeah.
Oh, and,
So
right, but it's,
two different things. what
it's
you're talking
still, it's going, well, I won't argue.
I really think.
We can talk about that later.
We talk about that a lot, we do, but I think once it's done, the residents who are there are gonna appreciate.
If you're putting in rumble strips, there's not a single resident anywhere within a half a mile of that who's going to be happy,
Can we
period.
focus on what we're here
Yeah,
for?
for the growth,
Yes.
yeah.
Because we
Yes.
got a lot of people here that
Yeah.
want to speak, and I want to afford them the
Okay,
opportunity to
well,
speak.
my other statement is, you know, you had talked about that we need, more, police or sheriffs for who's coming. The crime's already here. You need more of that now, before you build any more homes, before you bring any other people in. You know, every single day, I spend entirely too much time on Facebook. We know that every single day, I see the words, 5 years ago, this never would have happened here. You know, people stealing from my property, not my property personally, but people just stealing from properties, walking up and just taking off with stuff.
And we answer that, we're budgeting for more deputies and so forth. Right now, that's hard to get, because of our national cultural environment about police officers.
Right.
Unfortunately, the defund
Right.
mindset, the lack of respect they're getting for the most part. In our area, I think they're respected more. But we're having a hard time getting post-certified officers that want to come into the force anymore.
Right.
So, but we are working to do that and beef that up. And I hear you, we need to get that, we need to stay out ahead of that.
Okay.
And not try to play catch-up on that, and we don't. We're staying ahead of that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
How do we make sure she gets the copy of that map?
Oh,
Did we
I
get
was
her
going to
name?
say, if you go on the county website, and the homepage, there's a big box that says T-Splosh Project List Highlights. Click on that, that'll take you to the map. Well, I'll tell you what, if talk to me after the
Yeah,
meeting, and
yeah,
what I'll
so we
do
keep
is.
moving. Yeah,
if
bring that map and
different,
let's look at it
I'll
and see what
find
the
you
differences
what's
are.
different.
Yeah, because I'm not aware of any material differences, but bring it, I could be wrong, and we'll look at it together. Well, bring it to us and we'll look at it. We're not,
Hi, my name's Deborah Dias. I live off of Ebenezer Road. My question to y'all is, we hear hearsay, like, I didn't know that the land at the roundabout on Ebenezer, that there was Dollar General trying to go in. We just happened to see the sign and investigated it. Is there any place that we can go online to show us what is coming to the county, what's already been approved, what's coming up to be approved, so that we have a voice, that we know what's going on, instead of assuming, because you know what happens when you assume.
yep.
Well, we post all of our agendas on there, don't we?
Our agendas
Every
are
other week,
posted.
every meeting.
But is it specific?
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
specifically?
says,
Mr. Chairman?
It's on
Because I never
Facebook.
see it.
There is a way you can get notifications directly.
Is there?
And Brad will let you know on that right now.
Yes, if you go to the website, you can sign up for multiple notifications from various departments and various boards, commissions that are having, and you will have the
And it will tell you, now
tell you
what's,
when the meeting is, what they're talking about, what order they're talking about it in, and points of contact if you have questions within the county staff prior to the meeting.
okay. The only other question I have real quick is y'all don't have a master plan yet, is that correct?
Don't have a what?
A master plan, y'all are working on getting a master
We're
plan?
updating the master plan.
We
have
do
a
have
master
one,
plan.
but it needed updating, yeah.
Because I was just curious as how is all this commercial and everything getting approved if you don't have an updated master plan?
You're required by the state of Georgia to do a 10-year comp plan, land use every year, every 10 years. So
Okay.
we've done that, and we have that. You can get the comp plan. We weren't satisfied with the comp plan that was put together for us by our regional commission. So I've asked, and the board has approved, to move forward with re-looking at that and getting more input, because we didn't like some of the things that are in that. So
Right.
we're just trying to do a better job with the comp plans and the land use plans and master plans, and adding some modeling in that as well. Plus,
Right.
one other thing we're doing that, once again, not to this board's credit, is that we authorized a fund to get all these plats and buildings that's been done before many of us were ever on the board. We want them in our GIS, so we can see exactly what's there, what's in the ground. So we're really trying to collect data, so the more data we get, we won't be throwing darts. And if I'm not here in 3 years, the next chairman will have better information to work with.
Right.
He won't be starting, or she won't be starting from scratch. So, yeah, we
I
have
guess-
plans, but some of them just were dated, and I didn't like them, and they didn't like them either.
Unfortunately, we moved out to on Ebenezer 9 years ago, and we love it. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and so I just hate to see all the growth and it becoming another pooler area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi. My name's Rita Elliott. I've been living in Effingham since 2005, working in the county since 1987. I'd like to say I was a child at that point, but I wasn't. But anyway, thank y'all for being open to public comment, not just having the meetings, but sincerely wanting to listen to people. I appreciate that. A couple of things. I noticed the mission statement of Effingham County ends by saying, quote, safe and healthy environment to encourage and promote a high quality life. That's wonderful. I ain't seeing it though. And I know y'all are working towards trying to get there, but what we're seeing now with growth is not contributing to any kind of environmental health or personal health or community health. And the path we're on is rapidly going against that, I would submit. So, you know, you mentioned up on your slideshow, which is great, you have a transportation plan, a zoning code plan, a facilities plan, a utilities plan. You've got lots of plan for growth. You have no plan for green space. You have no plan for environmental issues. If you're not going to plan it, it's not going to happen. So I'd love to see you take that energy you're putting into all the other plans and have an environmental plan, have a green space plan, because it's getting eaten away rapidly. As you all know, you come to south part of Effingham County, and I used to think it's just Rincon, which is where I live, but no, it's when I drove to the meeting here today, it's like it's eaten up, it's going up 21 rapidly, and it's everywhere. And if we don't get a handle on it, we are going to be another Pooler or worse. It's just going to get more and more concrete and nobody's going to want to live here because the quality of life is going to be reduced. So I would submit you need a plan for green space and a plan for smart growth, not piecemeal, let's tuck it into this zoning code or this piece of thing here. You need a plan the
No,
dive the plan.
when you say green space, are you just meaning just more parks?
No.
Or?
No, we have enough ballparks, I think.
No, I don't mean just regular parks.
Right, passive recreation, green space, green space chunks throughout the county, but they have to be connected by green space corridors. Please, talk to me.
Yes, ma'am. That is part of the being performed Parks and Rec plan to include those pedestrian corridors connecting the parks.
What kind of corridors are we talking about?
I'm not working on that plan, ma'am, but it was a requirement for that plan to include those.
Well, that's great, but I think it needs to be just not connecting the parks, but the whole county, you need to consider green space in the whole county. It's not just a piecemeal, oh, there's a tree, oh my God, we got green space, there's a tree. No, we need more trees. We don't need to be whacking down. It takes 100 years to grow a 100-year-old tree. You can't just plant a sapling and, oh, we're fine. So we need to
purposeful.
Yes, preserve old growth trees when we can and make that not the exception, but make it the rule. Plant new trees to make up for all these trees that are getting annihilated by the Effingham County corridor, the parkway. It's a huge swath of cutting through green space. So definitely, and maybe there is a plan in the rec plan, but I think it needs to be at an upper level, county level, environmental plan for the whole county that gets considered in everything we do, everything y'all do. Also, we're talking about 4,500 more cars on the road in 3 to 4 years, or 3 to 4 years. We need corridors with bike trails, bike paths. We need alternative transportation options. You know, Effingham County, you get in your car and you drive somewhere. Well, let's be able to walk somewhere. Let's have walkable communities. Plan for growth and smart growth, walkable communities, mixed-use communities. Connect these communities with trails and bike trails and walking paths. And then I'm going to throw this out, and y'all can all go ahead and shake your heads now, because I used to work in Chatham County and live in Rincon. And thank God I don't do that anymore, because the traffic, as you know, is ridiculous. And you can widen that road every 5 years, another 8 lanes, and it's just going to fill up. Roads are not the answer always, and especially this case. Now go ahead and shake your head. I'm going to say light rail. I can't afford light rail. Nobody's ever done that. Well, if you start now, by the time 7, 10, 15 years, we'll have light rail between here and Savannah. If you don't start now, it's not going to happen for another 20 years. And you're going to say, why didn't we start sooner? So you really need to think, I hate this word visionary, but please try to be visionary. Think about the future in smart growth, light rails, walkable communities, green spaces. And then lastly, I'm going to say something that'll probably get me shot before I leave the room, but I have a question for y'all. Is there ever enough growth? When is enough enough? To me, I'm just listening to this. It's like we're fueling this insatiable pyramid scheme. Okay, we need more growth because we need more taxes. Well, if we get more growth, we need more infrastructure. Okay, we've got more infrastructure, but now we need more growth. It's this pyramid scheme. I mean, when is enough growth enough?
You know, I made a little talk the other night. People were fussing about growth. We don't go out and solicit any of these neighborhoods. People have property. Well, the other thing, when you said that you don't see any of that, I don't know why people are flocking to Effingham County then. Talk to Dee Moncrief. There's no inventory to sell. People love it up here. So there is reasons for people to be here. I think Effingham County's great. I kind of took that as a slight.
Well, yeah, it's great now, but it's going away.
But things are going to change. I mean, people...
Well, I'm not saying, I think they should change. I'm not a kind of person that says, oh, we've always done it this way. I think things should change, but not in the direction they're going now. And okay, so maybe you don't have control over housing, but the county has a lot of control over smart growth, and we need to make those things viable, make those efforts to make smart growth in different ways. And you talk about...
But like he said, we don't go out and ask people to come to Effingham County. And if you got a piece of land somewhere and somebody wants to move to Effingham County, and they give you pay, you're not going to sell it to them, what you going to do? Say, no, you can't move to Effingham County.
No, but if they want to move to Effingham County and build 300 houses on my tract of land, you have control over how they build those houses, how many they put there.
Well,
all those people.
We're working on that now. That's why
Okay.
we're here
We have
tonight.
Well, that's why I'm here tonight too,
Yeah.
so we're on the same page.
We're working
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah, and I'm in your district, by the way.
Rita, we have some control. We don't have a lot of control. And that's the thing, you know, people come, they want to sell their land, they want to develop it. So we're trying to find what controls we do legally to protect as much as we can the quality of life. I would contend if it wasn't for what the board is trying to do and is doing now, you would not want to live here in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So when we say that we're not improving or defending or protecting the quality of life, that's exactly what we're doing and trying to do, because there are places I know, counties right up the road from us don't even have any zoning. You can go out there now and build whatever you darn well want to build, and no one can stop you because there's no zoning.
Yeah, I appreciate your efforts. I really do. I'm not coming up here to say y'all aren't doing that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, you know, we're already behind the 8 ball. You know, it's like,
Oh,
if
yeah,
you just
we know-
look
we know.
around,
The
so,
thing I really like that you said tonight, and I wrote that down, is particularly as we get these other plans together, you know, it'd be nice to have someone that has that green space perspective, say, all right, this is the transportation plan, this is the water and sewer, this is our current zoning. We're looking, how do we, and we're looking at how to connect those parks, that is exactly right. But somebody take a broader, that really understands and appreciates and has a passion for green space. What would that look like? Now, we may not can do it, we not even agree with them, but it'd
sure.
be nice
But at
to
least
get-
to be some
nice to get
research
their
and some ideas for you.
print
Yeah.
over that and say, hey, this is what I would do if I were you on that.
See
Okay,
if we
Look at
can
that.
create that category, because right now it's just part of other plans. Can
that'd
we
be
create-
great.
Yeah, it's a part of other plans.
But can we create a category where there is a plan in itself for green
Yeah.
space and environmental?
I like
values?
that. That's a good
Okay,
thought.
that'd be great if y'all would consider that.
I would like to speak to what you said about progress and growth. Before I went in the military, I grew up in a small town called Nashville, Georgia. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that.
I've been through it.
I've been through it. If you've been through it, you probably forgot about it.
Sneezed and missed
I
it.
think there's still 3 traffic lights there. And I grew up there, and there was no opportunity. It was like 6,000 people when I was a tot, and when I went in the military, it's still about 7,000 people. There's probably still 6,000 or 7,000 people.
Yeah, somebody probably died.
Yeah, and there was just, everybody was just looking to move somewhere. And I want Effingham County to be something where my kids can say, I can work here, Dad. I can.
Certainly,
You know, I want
yeah.
not just warehousing, but skilled labor jobs or engineering or, you know, something they can be proud of and stay here and come back.
Sure, I mean,
to.
it's,
Because right now, we don't have a whole lot. So I would like to, you know, you used the word visionary. That's part of my vision for Effingham, but to do it in a good way. You know, that's why we're even here, so we can do it in a good way. But create something where my kids, they don't have to move to Atlanta like his kids have done, or just look forward to getting out of town.
certainly. And I think visionary, as you think about those things, think about what the workforce of the future looks like. It's not necessarily storefronts. It's some Gen X or Gen Y sitting at their computer with an internet business. Maybe they have a garage with 10 people putting stuff in boxes, and those are going to be small businesses of the future. They won't take up a big footprint, and those are the kinds of people that are going to want to go out, you know, work maybe 11 to 1 in the day, go out for a hike on the bike trail right by their house, go out for get a cup of coffee at the local coffee shop. You know, they're going to care about the environment. They're not going to want to live in some concrete jungle. So I think you can help get your kids to stay and work in this area with those kinds of jobs if you think about what those jobs of the future will be.
Yeah, I
Some
like
of
the
those
green
people
space
will
idea.
turn into Amazon too. They're in their basement.
Well, then they move to New York City then.
There's so much innovation out there, and I love that part of it, you know, with the kids and creating things.
But in Effingham's perfect for that kind of
It is.
business as well.
It would be great.
I'm a small business owner too, by the way.
Me too. Been in
Yeah.
several-
I agree with you on the trees, and I've been called a tree hugger myself. But I hug my own trees, and I think that's where the challenge is. You know, having someone telling them what they can, you know.
What you can do and can't do.
I mean, I
with
think
your
we
tree.
can try to encourage their ways, but
Well-
you know, we got to be. I'm sensitive to that,
Beyond-
so
I guess
we have to
the
find a
only
way
to have
around
it,
that.
We'd have to purchase the green space.
Sure, why not? It's a,
Funding, and we got people want roads. They're not
but if
paying
you
much
have,
money to
if you
buy.
have an environmental person, they could go after grants to help leverage what money you do have. Because that is that is adding to your infrastructure. Getting green space in the county is adding to people that want to come here in the future and live and have it's adding to the residents that already live here to have quality air. It's helping with your stormwater runoff. You have enough green space, it's going to get pollution out of the water system, and it's going to keep things from eroding away. So it's really good for development. Green space, that's the new tagline. Green space is good for development.
Remember, we're supposed to get some rich people to donate us to property.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are some out there.
And I would
Have you
also like to
looked?
see something on the arts side,
That would be
Center for the Arts.
That would be nice.
When my
Yeah.
kids were small, we had to go to other cities to even to have an auditorium.
Yes,
to do
arts
things.
and culture.
I
Yeah.
loved it.
I
I
would
we
love
talked
to
about
see
that
us
many times.
as we
So
grow, develop
we've
those
got a lot of
opportunities.
ideas, but like everybody
Well-
says, you only have so much funding you can do. We only have so much control we can exercise. We can direct things in certain ways,
Mm-hmm.
like Bluffton and other people do. But we also believe in property rights. We want to honor that as best we can, as long as it doesn't infringe on somebody else's safety. or
Exactly.
rights. So
You know,
it's a
18 million
balance.
cars on the road,
It's a good
pollution
balance.
and developments infringing on my right to breathe clean air, you
Yeah,
know?
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
but you got to, where's that balance? And it's hard to attain. That's what we're.
Yeah,
that's
we
why we're
appreciate
here.
that y'all are looking into that and going to do something about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I like your green space idea of a master plan. That's an interesting
Great.
concept, yeah.
We'll look
Thank
forward
you.
to it. Thanks.
Yeah. The one with all the answers on business.
I don't think that's right, but I do appreciate the chance to be here tonight. Ryan Thompson. I've been a resident of this county twice now. My dad was the county agent from when I was born in 1977, so y'all can do the math of how old I am until 1983. And I was lucky enough to move back in 2005. And I am a landscape architect, so I love hearing about all the trees, and I do agree that there are things we can do to protect additional. I think that would go a long way to create the visual that a lot of that gets impacted, and I think there's some fairly simple solutions that I'm proud that the board's looking at. I want to commend the board for the transportation, the water and sewer studies. I'm looking forward to seeing those. The county's growing. We're growing because the county's doing well, but we're also growing because our country's doing well, and specifically the Southeast is doing well, and our ports are doing well. So I just want us to make sure that we ask the right questions, answer those questions, but I'm hopeful we can do that without saying, and I wasn't going to use the M word, but without a moratorium, that we can develop some way that we can get those answers. Maybe it does slow things up, and we say we can't approve that right now, but it's not a strict, we can't approve anything related to that right now. I would just say that, I'm a dad of two daughters, and I agree 100%. I hope they can come back to Effingham and work. And I think we need more growth. I do think that. I understand that one of the things I've appreciated the most is I actually have been nodding my head with most of the things that a lot of people have said tonight. This is a wonderful opportunity that y'all have given us to have a cordial conversation without yelling at each other back and forth on social media, so thank you for that. I just would, close with saying I got the benefit of seeing some of the plans of what's coming from the updates to the land use plans and nodal growth and planning for infrastructure in the right spots, and don't just think about where it is, but plan for where it needs to go. And I think y'all are doing that, and I commend that. And the density is not a bad word. It can be a bad word if it's done wrong, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can solve issues where we don't have to send water and sewer too many different spots. We don't have to have police and fire protection too many different spots. So just be thinking that there are impacts to approving a lot everywhere, that we could solve it in planned nodal growth areas. So anyway, I appreciate y'all's time very much.
Ryan, that's a good point, because that's why density is not a curse word to this board, but we're concerned about how we do it, because you're right, it does consolidate the services. It even can help the green space, we talked about just now, because then you don't take up all the beautiful green space we got around. You can consolidate that to one area and then make them do that right within that own area. So I agree with you. We're just trying to figure out how to do that right.
100%, understand.
Thank you.
Any other mechanism, and you've put in a lot of thought to this moratorium I've been trying to do, is there any other tool we could use to how do you say it without just saying, let's cut off for here till we fix this problem? You know, how do you, I'm here looking for answers,
Right, I
because we got
understand.
safety issues that
Yeah.
gotta be.
Slow it down without hurting
Without
property
hurting
owners,
anybody.
the community, builders.
And
It's
put
a
it-
way.
property rights, that's my biggest concern.
That too, you know, what tool do we use to do something like that, just till we get out of the woods with our infrastructure problem? Because it's not like it's a huge, massive area.
Right.
It's just, that's the only artery out of the county right there. We're
I understand there are very specific localized issues that have to be worked through, and maybe the answer is for some that does mean that we're not moving forward with this zoning application, right? We'll choose to, I know y'all do deny them, right, for legitimate reasons. I'm just saying, let's look at it that way versus saying, absolutely, you're not bringing something to us for the next 3 years. That concerns,
Well,
that's the concern.
on that same note, then I don't want a developer going out and doing all their homework, you know, going through the due diligence, spending money on engineering, just to come up here and figure out they can't do anything.
I agree with that 100%
So
too.
that's what I meant by being developer friendly. How do we do that so somebody doesn't go through all that? Because that's hurting them, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to take over people with their properties, and, you know, property rights is being able to get out of your driveway.
You're right, I agree.
That's part of it too. But it's become such a safety aspect with this. And I know the gentleman earlier said we were surprised. We're not surprised.
Right.
But things do change. Traffic patterns change. You never know completely sometimes until you get that volume, you know, as an engineer, into a certain area. I'll give you a great example. It's happened in Chatham County very recently. They're redesigning the way 30 comes into 21 because they didn't anticipate the amount of traffic that was coming back out of Pooler that way, going home.
Off of Benton,
Off
yeah.
of Benton.
Yeah.
The traffic study showed something different. So now they're having to go back and redo the whole thing because we've got such a backlog of traffic going left. You can't predict all these things all the time, and I think that's kind of where we're at. Who would have thought we'd be using Scuffletown as a way out of here?
And
Well,
I'll give you a closer, about how it's changed.
Oh, yeah.
The Blue Jay
In my
the Blue
district.
Jay and McCall Road was designed by engineers from a traffic study, because we're not traffic study engineers. And if we don't follow the traffic studies and what engineers say, we would be liable. So we try to do exactly what they tell us to do. So they designed an intersection they thought would be fine. Well, guess what? We had, 25 accidents in the first 2 or 3 months it was open? And we said, so we ordered another traffic study, and it had changed. The traffic pattern had already changed, and the density of traffic on that thing. So we're redesigning it again, you know? And it's not that we necessarily made a mistake the first time. So that's what generated they came back and said, you need to put stop signs there. So, all right, we'll put stop signs there. We'll do the things to slow down the traffic. We did everything they told us to do, which for me, I go there every day. It's been great. I don't ever sit in a line of 50 cars anymore. So I think it solved a lot of issues. But even there, the traffic study it was done 3 years earlier, designed and built, and now 3 years later, with the growth of our county and the traffic, it was obsolete. So we're going to improve it again.
Yeah, and I applaud the board for seeing it and recognizing it and solving it. I mean, their master plans are known to have to evolve. A traffic study is going to be as good as the data is provided. So there are going to be real world implications once you see things functioning, and you will have to make adjustments for it. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
And Mr. Chairman, I think one thing going forward too, we need to really focus on our communication. I think when we get the data from these master plans, I think we not only need to invite our developers, but our home builders and also our area engineers as well. And we need to let them know what page we're on, and I think that'll be a big asset for us going forward, once we get all this data.
And we have improved some, but still have a ways to go, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Staff's
Master plans and everything that we're doing now used to be okay every 10 years, not okay anymore, now that we're the third fastest growing county in the U.S.
3%.
So we've got to look at them, you know, we've had to morph and change. Our staff has changed, even our building has changed. It's been boots on the ground. I mean, it's not like we've been sitting back and watching things happen. We've really been trying. And we're genuinely interested in what people have to say and to make the right decisions. And that's our job. And Phil said the other day, we're I'm gonna quote you on this, Phil.
Oh, gosh.
That was really good. I thought it was great. So we don't represent land, we represent people. That's what we're here to do. So that's, we're trying our best to do that.
And I'm gonna correct one thing you said, it's not our job, because we don't have jobs up here.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
We all have jobs we go to, we
Yeah.
spend dozens, like, oh, we choose which 80 hours a week, some of us are
Maybe
self-employed,
our
so we
responsibility.
choose what 80 hours a week we work. But, so we're trying to manage this growth through the government processes given to us where we elect officials. But these guys spend a lot of time up here trying to review, go over stuff, and it's just, time is limited. You're not bothering us when you call us, you know, as long as you speak nicely. I will never use a curse word with you. Please don't use one on me. As long as we discuss, like we're doing tonight, I want to hear everything we've got to say. But good point, communication, we need to make sure, as busy as we are in our own busy lives, added to this, we need to come back with those plans, have more input. And every 3 years, we're going to have to update those master plans. They're not going to be good for 10 years anymore.
That's right. Well, I really do appreciate the fact that y'all were willing to do this tonight very much, so thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
I'm Rachel Sloan. I emailed Mr. Roger yesterday, I believe. My daughter was in an accident when Monday evening leaving South High School.
I'm sorry.
She's fine.
Good.
I'm sorry. The speed limit through there is reduced right after school hours, but my kids attend a lot of extracurricular activities, so 7 o'clock in the evening, they'll be coming home 6 o'clock in the evening. So there's a lot of work traffic coming through that area, and the reduced speed limit is no longer activated. So thankfully, the man who hit her was an older gentleman. He reacted quickly, and otherwise he would have T-boned her and probably would have killed her. Sorry. We also have to go through the Jabez Jones 17 interchange. And when I discussed that with the police officer, he actually recommended that my children take a different route home because there's at least one fatality there every year, which does not give me peace as a mother with my children taking that route home. So,
Was he talking about Jabez in 17?
yes. So I know that you had, said that you were looking for input of things that could be changed. I know in the evenings it's very dark out there. There's no lighting. You can't tell that you're coming up on a road. The white strip at the stop sign is no longer there, so you can't tell that you're approaching a stop sign.
This is on Jabez Jones Road?
Yes, sir.
Route 17 right there.
Okay.
At the intersection. And then we live off of Roebling, and thankfully someone, probably a private citizen, has put a reflective triangle on the stop sign at the end of the road, so driving up to it now, you can see that you're coming up to the road. So I think that to be a safe community, we do need to have, things, maybe not the traffic circle yet, that's 3 years away, but maybe lighting, caution lights, things like that, to let the drivers that are coming through know, hey, there is an intersection coming up, you need to slow down. But I work in the school system. All these kids that come through, they're my babies. So any of them that get hurt in these car accidents is very concerning to me. And so it finally really hit home this week for me, and that's why I'm here. And I would like to see something done about the speed limit through, especially the school zones.
Yeah, you copied me and Roger. I think, Roger, you responded.
Yes, sir.
Or you was talking about keeping the reduced speed in effect at later hours through the school zone.
Like even reducing it to maybe 45 for when there is no one there.
That's
It's
a
a state road.
State highway, we'd have to make a request from the state.
Right.
To do that, they'd have to do their studies, but we can do that. Is it 55 in front
Well,
of the school?
that's a state route, so that's going to be completely decided by the.
It's 45 max.
Yeah, I think 40, it's got to be 45 in front of the school. It is in Ebenezer
It's
as well.
55.
Yeah,
front of the
it goes
school.
55 to
It goes on
45.
119 too.
Yeah.
I believe it's 55.
In front of the school.
Regular.
Yes, it's 55.
I think school.
Maybe, I may be wrong.
Well, let's do this, because I hear, let's check on that, because I was thinking school zones, like 275 is a state highway. It is 45 through there. I know that because my wife got a ticket going through there after the school
35
time.
through many
After the school
schools,
zone.
I was
Those
not
little cameras, they got her. But those little cameras have saved a lot of speeding through there. So
Yes.
as much as I was against it when we first got it,
Right.
I realized, talking to the sheriff, he said, you would not believe how it had slowed down traffic and is making it safer. But let's check on two things, Tim, if we could. is it 45 in front of our schools? It should be, I think. I agree with you. If it's not, what can we do to do that? And then definitely we need to look at that Jabez Joan where she said the striping.
I've already sent an email on that, and
Good.
I'll look at the other
They're
one.
already working on that striping, because we're very interested in the striping and the signs, 'cause I've told Tim as I've gone through places. And so I always do that. If you see a sign that's faded, I'm thinking, man, we need to replace that sign. Remember, our county property-wise is one of the largest. That's another challenge we have. If you look at all the counties in the 159 counties, we have one of the largest property areas and one of the largest amount of, particularly rural roads, you know. We don't have the lane miles of a big city, but the roads miles, we have a lot of road miles.
And, you know, people coming through there because, you know, everybody takes 17 is not local.
Yeah.
And so they don't know that those little side roads are
Exactly.
coming off, and I know that that is a problem with people
So
coming
we-
off of Jabez on the
Yeah.
17. They pull out and get T-boned.
We've
pretty
done things like
often.
that at like courthouse in McCall,
Mhm.
McCall and, is it Midland? We put the little lights that shine now and things that, trying to make it safer. So we will look at that and see if we can't do that pretty quickly, because I think we can control our side of that.
Because
anyway.
Jabez Jones is a county road, right?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
take care
Most
of
of
that.
those roads, if there's been fatalities, like Marlow Road, when the state came in on that, they ended up putting in the rumble strips and everything else. Of course, we've had problems with rumble strips. People don't like
Right.
those either. But it makes you aware there's a stop sign coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Thank you, appreciate the input.
And by the way, the roundabouts that we're trying to do will not have rumble strips, so don't worry about that. I've got a lot of complaints on those, and I can understand why, so they won't
It
have
will
them.
be a solution to, yeah. Hopefully it'll be a.
People
You know
love
what?
safety till you put a rumble
Are we
strip
saying
in
it correctly?
front of them.
You
What's
heard
that?
what I said? No rumble strips at the
On
roundabouts.
roundabout.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you,
County manager right there. You quit.
all right. We're at the 8 o'clock hour, but we'll go over a few minutes. Go ahead.
Hello, board. Good to see you again, Leslie.
Good to see you.
My name's Chris Kabinski. I've been a resident of Effingham County for about 10 months now.
Welcome.
Thank you. My family and I, we moved down here by choice from the Howell, Michigan area, about an hour northwest of Detroit. A large part of that was because we, wanted to get closer to the coast. And honestly, after what we saw, personally witnessed up in the Michigan area with how they treated the pandemic versus how you all treated the pandemic was a complete 180. When I'm told when and how I can go to church, how I can go and eat at a restaurant at 50% capacity, see a lot of my friends lose businesses, and rules that are good for thee, but not everybody else, or good for me, but not for thee, it was time for a change. And you know, being new, we kind of have a unique perspective. There are some things that we do miss about where we came from in Michigan. And the first one would be some of the parks and recs. It was the number one thing my wife has always been telling me about, and so I wanted to make sure to get that out of the way and make sure that was put on record. And I think somebody over here was talking about you guys had a plan for some increased parks and recs, additional green space.
Yes, sir. I can say that under the SPLOST that everyone was good enough to revote in November. About half of that is going towards recreation, expanding recreation, improving parks, that sort of thing. So over $20 million. That's we start collecting that in June. And we've already started doing the design and plans to get that going.
Are there plans out there already for ideas? Have you guys cemented upon those ideas?
Well,
or is it still
we've
kind of
just
in-
awarded the master planning contract for the parks facility maybe last month or a month and a half ago. And so I think if you pay attention to the agendas for the Board of Commissioners meeting, there'll be updates and opportunities for input on that.
Okay, great. One of the ones I wanted to suggest that we absolutely loved where we came from up there in Rochester Hills, Michigan, was called Innovation Hills. Just went from an empty strip of land to one of the most coveted parks all in the Metro Detroit area. And it had stuff for kids, paddling, splash pads, the whole 9 yards. So something to look in, why reinvent the wheel? The other thing I wanted to
Yeah,
ask
I'd really
about.
like to see that as well, too. Pam and my wife and I have talked about that, you know, the place where you go picnic, have a little splash pad. We may not can do in the borough, but we might have a place that you could gather that's more than just swing sets.
Well, instead of looping that water, we could just use that water in the borough.
The other thing that we noticed, down here is we always have to drive a considerable amount of distance, and most of our money, honestly, is either going down Pooler or towards Chatham County. And I hate seeing, our money having to support another county. And I think, Mr. Loper, you had mentioned how do you get people in when you need roof space? Has the county ever looked into those like split level where you have the resident above, the business below?
Yeah, we have zoning for that.
Mixed use.
Yeah,
Okay.
mixed use, we do.
I live right,
Reasons why we denied the multifamily that came up a couple of meetings ago is because it was originally designed for a mixed use with commercial right there, and what, I hope somebody takes that up and builds that.
and I've heard from a couple people that have tried to call the real estate or the developer there, and they don't get any type of call back. There seems to be a big need for the community that would fit their good. Personally, like I said, we always have to leave to go take, for recreation. We almost put our house back up to go down towards the Richmond Hill area because we felt it had, more trees, it had better parks, it had better bike systems. There was a lot more for, better families, but what really stopped us was, some of the things that we were hearing with the schools down there. We moved here, we wanted to try and make this work, feeling that there could be things that could be done to help build it up and leave it better for the next generation coming behind us. So it's good that you guys are having these, talks, but there is some concerns about these developers just, plowing down all the land and leaving absolutely no trees. You had mentioned going up through Bluffton. That was our first place that, we had looked down in that area because we absolutely loved, that coastal feel and also the trees that were intermingled. It wasn't just everything blown down and all of a sudden there's, houses every quarter acre. Also with the schools, because I'm a little bit newer and what's going on with the roads and what you guys had talked about with the turning down the MDU. With Blandford, it seems there is a bit of a stalemate where they're getting lowballed to buy that school, because I think everybody can agree that's not the most optimal place to have a school. Can you guys comment upon why that hasn't been pushed forward? Why haven't they bought that out and got that, school moved?
Yeah, I can give you a little bit. Omnitrax has not been in my opinion, has not been a good player in this community to assist us. And so I agree with the comments made earlier. And we've met with the school board, we've met with our representatives. It's just the school and the board of education and Omnitrax have not been able to get together where they believe they're getting sufficiently compensated for the school. We've tried to give ideas. We've met with Bro, and we've worked on a lot of things. So the school has to move forward, and so they've built it. I can tell you one thing I've said in the past, we'll see where it goes, that they better get the east-west corridor connected from that warehouse that you see there. Because we're going to cut, I intend to try, I don't know if I can legally do it, so I'm not saying what I can legally do, but I intend to try to cut all traffic, make it go to the parkway, truck traffic, and they won't be using these other roads they've been using, if I can do that. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but they have not worked well with the school board.
Well, and that is in their agreement, that they have to use that connector to the
Yeah,
parkway.
yeah.
That's clearly stated.
I think so, I just want, but that's where we're headed for that.
Okay.
So, we're looking at how can we make that intersection safer if we have to live with it. But it's gonna be difficult for me to work with Bro until they come to the table and work with us and make our community and our schools safer. And
Because they have all the bargaining chips in their corner, I imagine.
And that's kind of the way it is. And there's just been a huge delta between the value of that school and what they're willing to offer the school.
Okay.
Yeah, what they're offering and
that-
what the cost is to replace it is a huge delta. And we've even, as a commission, looked at trying to get involved in
Other
using
ways
some
of
of our
doing it.
resources to try to bridge that. The IDA's looked at that. So we have passionately looked at how can we make some lemonade out of this. And can we turn that into, you talk about the community center where it could be an arts center
Wonderful
or,
centralized area that if it's after hours, it wouldn't affect children during the day.
yeah.
You got most of your truck traffic and all that stuff, and especially when you get it over on the parkway. it could be a really nice centralized area for the arts or something else. I'd love to do something like that with it, but
We've even talked with the,
get them to the table, nothing, you know, there's
Effingham
such a
Academy.
delta to the bridge.
not Academy, what is it?
How-
Effingham
how do you-
Career Academy.
That's taxpayer money we're dealing with at
Yeah, I'm
that
talking
point.
about Career Academy, see if we could work with them to make something coordinated. So, yeah, we are looking at that diligently. But once again, we don't control the property, we don't control the negotiations. We just try to let both sides know that the county's here, we're concerned, and if we can help, we want to try to participate in that.
And one thing we have done along that way, you know, we are trying to make lemonade out of lemons there, and I think it's a lemon. I wish there was more we could do about that, but you know, if we look at McCall Park along there, that's gonna be a serious win for the people that live along there and people on that side of the county. That park had ran down. The people chose to, just to update you, forego the sidewalk system there, use that money to put it in McCall Park, $75,000. Well, it took them over a year to give us a measly $75,000. So I think out of SPLOST, we're able to fund that and add to the $75,000. If you ride by there today, it is going to be a very nice park. I think one of our first or second dog parks. It's a walking trail, baseball, soccer field. I mean, it's a lot of stuff on a smaller footprint, but we really had nothing on that side of the county like that. And now we're going to have something really nice that I'm very proud of.
It's good to hear.
That's a people win. You know, they raised their hand, they wanted to do that, so we acted on it.
The last question, kind of two parts, would be with roads. You mentioned the parkway coming through. Is that going to be in stages where it's going to be opened up to like Goshen and also the roundabout coming up to Benton?
It'll be in Benton, it goes up through Goshen, up into Blue Jay, it'll final out in Blue Jay.
Will that be completed in stages, like stage one up to Goshen and that
Well,
opened up?
No, I think it's gonna be all at once.
We're we've been waiting on that for a long
It
time.
has a completion date of, is it just under 3 years now that has to be finished?
Well, I mean, from the start, which is almost a year ago, it's almost 4 years is what they have.
Right, about 3 years left though, isn't it?
But it's about 3.5 now.
Is it? Okay.
It's gonna
It'll
move
have
a
to be-
lot of people in and out of the county from all districts.
And the reason I ask if it's possibly done in stages to help alleviate some of that traffic, because it sounds like that roundabout at the end of Hodgeville isn't coming anytime soon. But if it could be moved a little,
I think it's coming about the
Probably
same time. All
probably
these
about
projects
the
are gonna
same
come
time.
together
Same
about the
time.
same time.
That's the problem. Everything's just happening so much later, and we see what's coming down the pipe, and we're trying to be, you know,
See, our main problem with Hodgeville and Highway 30 is that's in Chatham County.
Yeah.
And we can't legally spend money outside of our bounds. If that portion was inside of Effingham, we would have the power. We could really speed that up, but we don't.
and I see, or Chatham's County, that's at the very far end. Why do they care? It's most of the people that
That's
are coming
right.
down.
but it
Yeah.
just benefits us.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
our citizens, and it
Not in
doesn't
our area,
benefit
but it
them.
benefits us
Not that
more
they
than
don't
them.
care, but it's, I mean,
That's what I was asking, if the parkway got done in stages to help move some of that traffic going down through
if you
Goshen
did,
down there,
unless
but
you move the stage from Chatham County up, it wouldn't matter. You'd still be going down Hodgeville and
Yeah, I
down
don't
30.
think it'd be done in stages. There's like 5 or 6 bridges, because there's a lot of wetlands in there. That's why it's so expensive. You know, we couldn't just berm it.
You'd
So-
still hit that
Six
pressure
bridges,
point.
Huh?
6 bridges is going in there.
Yeah.
So it'll have to take a long time to build the
So they're gonna
bridges.
build all that, then connect it. It'll be probably open all at one time. Yeah.
and I saved the best for last. Blue Jay and McCall, is that gonna be, I heard you guys say that
Yeah,
you
it's
did
what-
another traffic study.
Yeah, well, that's what generated the stop signs and that's the engineers. They called me and said, you gotta put stop signs. I said, I'm waiting on the study. I'm only gonna do what the traffic study says to do. So we got the traffic study, they said stop signs, and we put them up immediately. So we're trying to follow the best information we have, we get it. Now, with that new traffic study, it's getting a redesign. I don't know if Tim wants to address that.
It's right now they're talking about it's a small redesign on one of the turn lanes that it's kind of difficult to explain, but it's the turn lane that goes from Blue Jay to Rincon.
Fort Rankin, yeah.
They're relocating that because for a couple of reasons. One, it creates a potential visibility issue for the folks at the original stop sign, and it creates a very tight turn radius for the folks coming south on McCall and making a left. And so that's what we're immediately working on now. I can tell you, and I was hoping to have these reports for tonight, but I don't. Since the stop sign's gone in, I'm not aware of accidents occurring. And matter of fact, since we reduced the speed limit 2 weeks prior to that, and that actually caused a massive decrease in accidents to about 1, I think, in that time period. So the changes that's been made appear to have been effective on a safety level basis. And from our experience, they have not been causing the backup that folks were fearing having on there. But we do have one little tweak remain on that with the turn lane.
Was there a reason there was not a roundabout considered there?
That may be a future thing.
That may be a future thing, and this was kind of before my time. I don't know what the consideration was on the design.
There's always a lag. I mean, you get your data, you get everything together, you do your engineering, you finally get it done, and our growth rate is so rapid. You know, it becomes obsolete so quickly.
About 8 years ago.
You'd have to redo the study and do it all over again.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe even 10 years ago, but at least 8 years ago, that property was acquired by this board before I got on there, but I was with the city at the time. And they acquired that to make a way to make it kind of keep the traffic moving. So we had that already purchased, already put in there. It was available to work with. Didn't require, in that area, it'd be very expensive, thousands of dollars for additional right of way, obviously. And so I guess it's sort of say it was based on studies. A path was drawn. It was done earlier. They did a traffic study 3 or 4 years ago. They based the design, finished the design on that. So I mean, it probably does need a roundabout as we look at it now, but that would come as the parkway finishes. I would suspect, I don't know, can't speak for the board or the engineers, but I would suspect when the parkway's done, we'll get a new study to see how much traffic's on it then, you know, and that may require us to look at a roundabout there. If you did one there, you might want to do a 4-lane roundabout, so it gets more. You're talking about probably $1.5 million now or more. Versus,
I'd be hesitant to do some kind of assumption study ahead of time until we really see what
to get the
pattern that's
parkway
gonna
in, see
create.
what traffic study is. But I think for me, I go there almost every day, and I have not yet. I used to be backed up as I was going down to your road. I would come to that stop sign, and I'd look and think, good gracious, 50 cars.
Yeah, I learned to avoid that area quickly.
Yeah, and I don't have that anymore. I have not had 5 cars in front of me now, which is good. Somebody may have had that. So I think it's solving the issue, and now it's doing it more safely.
I would say Band-Aiding it, because there's been a couple times I backed up, and every time I've driven through there, and I'm like, what engineer designed this? Why you had the space there and not put in, you know, around a, maybe there was an engineering, you know, reason why. I just wanted to have, you know, see if it's something
that with more engineering, because you gotta have more property, you got more engineering. It would have been a lot longer process to get it done.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you all taking the time.
Okay. Sure, go ahead.
My name is Murray Marshall. I think I've met every one of you over the years. Some of you might know, some of you might not know. I've been in real estate since 1964, and I was living in Effingham County when I started in real estate. One of the reasons I came, and I'm very active in the development business and the consulting business in real estate, but I heard that there was an idea of moratoriums being placed, some form of moratorium being placed. And gentlemen, that to me is the worst thing you can do. The manpower that you need to be spending to figure out how to solve the problems needs to be accelerated. But if you put a moratorium on, think about the competition in the development business, the areas that people can go. You run up I-16 into North Bryan County, which is direct competition to coming up Highway 21 into Effingham County. Right now, the development community is looking very favorably on Effingham County. You put a moratorium in place, it's going to shift what is already happening somewhat in the industrial sector. The I-16 and Highway 280 industrial development is exploding. You will drive the developers' ideas over there. and it'll be difficult to get them back. The momentum we have going in this community right now needs to be maintained, but accelerate the expenditure of money to get the professionals to work on each of the problems that exist. And I know the problems exist. I don't live up here anymore, but I'm very active. So I just implore you, don't go into the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, come on up.
Good evening. I'm Rich Thurman. I live down in Whitehall. And I think I speak for a lot of the residents. We really would not have a problem with turning down the zoning rate that we're doing, the rezonings. We like it here. We moved out here for a reason. We like the area. We like where we live. We like the housing. We don't need a drastic, quick changing to our county and the way and where we're living. I think the way to handle that is just to put it in your planning. Here are the types of features that we would want in different areas, and you just plan for it and put it in the plan. And that's your go-to for when you deny them. You just say, that's not what we're looking for there. All of the developers will see it in your plan. They'll see where you're wanting things, where you're not wanting things. And that's how the roadmap that they will use in order to decide where to start looking at plans and what to build where. And so just put it in there, put it in the writing, put it in the plan. Say, this is what we do want, this is what we don't want, here's where we want it, here's where we don't. Make it clear.
It seems that easy.
It does seem that way.
But it's not. If you have a piece of property zoned a certain way, and the neighbor also wants that, it's hard to deny this tax-paying citizen his right to develop his property is other properties in that area. Just because there's a group that likes trees and likes this and that, doesn't trample this man's right. And we have to weigh all that out. It's not like, again, I've said this a million times, we don't look to push down trees. We don't look to bring in people. It's just this, people have an idea, they have a piece of property, this is what they'd like to do. We have to weigh it out,
but when they have
following the rules and the laws. If they're not breaking any rules or laws, the fact that somebody just doesn't like it doesn't trample his right.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying, but we do have to look at the big picture. But
right.
I wish it was that easy to just say, no, nobody's going to like that.
Well, if he's living there, he's probably using the land as a residence. If he's going to sell, I want to sell this land, I want to change it to be industrial instead. Well, that's a big change. Does that fit within the plan? It might not fit within the plan.
We do, but I mean, there may be, it's crazy how we've got neighborhoods over on Old River Road. There's warehouses, people's looking to, all that's going to go industrial because that's what needs to go there. But there are neighborhoods over there. So, again, it's hard to deny a gentleman that has 50 acres the right to go industrial. I mean, if he wants to sell it and develop it as that, I mean, they don't want to build houses there. And the market demands that. I mean, here's the value of it. Any of you can buy anybody's piece of property out there if you can afford it.
That's right.
And you leave trees on it and whatever you want to do. But that's the problem, the challenge we have. To deny this man's right or deny the value that he can get out of that piece of property.
Well,
one
the
thing,
value
Mr.
also
Rick,
depends on.
one thing you said, Mr. Rick, because he wasn't talking so much, I think, about it versus industrial and commercial. He was talking about us getting into the position where we're telling him what you can build.
Right.
What exterior you can put on the house and so forth. And that's a legal thing that we are actually looking to see what can, Richmond Hill, I think, or Bryan County is being sued right now on how that case is going to come out. Because they are telling them you've got to use certain materials on the house. I don't know if that's going to hold up. But that's gonna be an interesting case to follow, you know? So it's not as simple as, well, I wish I could tell everybody you're gonna have brick homes or wood-sided housing or whatever, you know? But I don't know we can get the minutia
Yeah,
of doing
we've
that.
had people stand up here says, you need to make everybody have an acre lot and a brick house, a minimum of 2,600 feet. Well, you can't, everybody can't afford that. And then all of a sudden, you're eliminating people that can't afford it. And that's,
Well, then you get sued because you can't do that. And so so I hear what you're saying. We're listening to what you said. We really are. And we're contemplating what can we legally do
Right.
to improve the quality of the housing.
Right.
And some of the things we've already done, we're looking at even more after we get through these studies, but we did some things immediately. You know, a few months ago, we did that moratorium for 3 months. We could do some things immediately, like the green space, recreational, extra parking, that made the cost of that type of development more expensive to make sure we had a better quality of product. But we're even looking further. We just don't know what we can do, but I hear you on that.
Right.
If there's things we can do to improve the quality of the house in the area, we need to look at that.
Okay, and as part of that, if you put it in your plan, these are the recommended uses for this area, you know, then you have something to stand on when you deny it, saying, that's not the plan, that's a residential area, we're not gonna put that there.
We've already got a land use map and we're working on a new
Agree
one,
with
so
that.
we want
Okay.
more concrete that applies to what we're doing right now in the state that we're in right now. So we're
Yeah.
we're way ahead of you on that.
We appreciate
Mr. Rickon,
that.
that's gonna help us say no to things we should say to
Right.
no to, because that's what we didn't like about this
We can
comprehensive
follow.
plan.
Yeah.
If the land use plan was a little better, we could say, no, we don't have any industrial plan for there, so we have a reason for saying no. We don't have any commercial plan for there, we have a reason for saying no. We don't have any multifamily, we have a reason for saying no. But right now, if you're living next to a zoning and you have 100 acres and you don't have a house on it, you just want to develop it, you want to retire and live in the northern end of Effingham County, you can sell it, and you
Move
should be able
away.
to get the same zoning that Bob and Alice had on their zoning and do the same thing. And our hands are gonna be tied, you know, in a lot of
Right.
ways.
In the same
I
token,
understand.
the developer should be able to look at our land use map and say, okay, this looks safe to do residential, this looks safe to do commercial or industrial. You know, they should be able to have afforded that opportunity and something concrete they could count on as well.
Right,
I'm a small business person myself. I'd like to be able to say I can run my business safely from this place and pursue that piece of land and develop it.
right. I appreciate that.
I wish it was that easy.
Well, I know, but it's part of discouraging and channeling for
And we're
for
working on
development.
that.
Channeling is a better word. Just be
Channeling-
careful that.
Yeah, we don't
to
want
not
to discourage
but
anything. Right now,
channel it, that's what we can
trying
do.
to fix a problem.
Might get sued if we try to discourage.
Safety issue. Other than that, I'm not trying to discourage any growth anywhere. We're just trying to fix a safety problem we have, and that's kind of what spurred everything. But I like what it's done here because we're getting so many different pieces of input and things we can be better at what we're doing here. You know, it really has opened my eyes up to a lot of things and new ideas, and it's been really good so far.
We appreciate your work.
Thank you, appreciate it. Well, this has been good information. We're coming on 8:30. What we probably need to do, unless there's one other person, I'll give one more opportunity for somebody that just needs to get up and help us understand something. You're welcome to do that. Then we're going to probably close this meeting out. And what we'll do is we'll take these comments, we'll get these studies, we'll come back, we'll do this again, okay? So this won't be the last chance you get to speak into these things. And maybe we can by then have some responses to some of the things that were brought tonight about the green space study and what we can legally do on development to ensure better quality and have some better answers on some other items as well.
And we appreciate the cordial conversations.
Absolutely.
No yelling.
Even the news reporters left because there's nothing going on here.
Nothing too exciting.
And you know, that's one reason some of us ran for office up here because I'm not a politician. You know, I was a CPA and a pastor for a while, and you know, we used to be in the paper all the time. Everybody was, but this board, we speak frank with each other. Jamie and I don't always agree, but man, it's very professional. I love that. We're talking with our cities, and I love that. We get together and nobody's, you know, we're not having the relations we used to have. And that's part of the quality of life of this community. If we keep ongoing communications, because remember, we're all full-time at what we do, so we may not communicate as good as we should, but just reach out to us, reach out to our staff, send us emails. We don't always get back to them very quickly because we're all very, very busy, but we'll try not to do this so fast that we make so many mistakes we can't get something right, okay? right, appreciate you all being here tonight, and thank you so much, and we'll try to do this again. And with that, we'll adjourn this workshop.